They're currently on 46 for the loss of 4 wickets. All these stories and more at around 6:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Thursday, the 31st of October 2024. Good morning, South Africa. This is the Morning Brief on SAFM. It's all the local and international news, current affairs, insights and opinions you need to lead the conversation today. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane and I'm here to deliver your Morning Brief. I'm sorry to wake you up with a whole lot of numbers, but what I will try to do is to basically try and weave in the narrative and give you the story of the numbers. What with it being the morning after the day before, of course, being the delivery of the medium-term budget policy statement by the Minister of Finance in Parliament, that's Minister Enoch Godongwana. So today we'll spend quite a bit of time trying to make sense of that, of the news coming out of that budget and its implications for you and I in our daily lives. So we'll have a strong focus on the budget, and that's coming up after 7 a.m. Among the key takeouts, though, from the budget speech that I can quickly sum up for you and try and tell you a story around them, the National Treasury has cut its economic growth expectations. At the beginning of the year, it expected the economy to grow by 1.3%. It now expects it to grow by 1.1%. That is the story of growth. It has also revised its spending for this year upward. So government will now be spending about 10 billion rand more than what it had budgeted for earlier on in the year. Much of it goes towards the funding of social grants, and in particular, the social relief of distress grant, which, as you know, went from 350 rand to 370 rand per month. But there are items there, I was looking at the document, that have to do with sudden expenditure, unexpected, that could not have been anticipated. So disaster relief, for example, the need to reconstruct roads and other infrastructure that has been, destroyed, particularly in disasters. We're also committing quite a bit of money to our commitment of troops in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. That makes a portion of that 10 billion rand extra that will be spent. Revenue collection is an interesting story, and I've been looking forward to telling you this story since I read it. So SARS, the revenue collector, will miss its target by some 22 billion rand for the 2024-2025 financial year. So they will collect 22 billion rand less than what they had anticipated. And get this, the story there is that Edward Kisweta and his good folks at SARS are perhaps victims of Mteto Nyati, Den Marokane, Begi Ngumalo, Jose Ntsura and their, modicum of success, let's call it that. We don't want to celebrate too early at Eskom. It would seem that they seem to have fixed Eskom so well that apparently we're not importing as many energy-related items as we used to, and therefore Kisweta and his team can't really now, charge the tax that they want. They would otherwise be able to collect from those imports. So, in fact, that's one of the stories of why revenue collection will be 22 billion rand less than what was projected earlier on in the year. But the other story, of course, is that generally, collection is expected to be lower even for the next 2 years by some 31 billion rand. Part of the story there being employment is not as much as it should be within our economy. Very quickly then, the last story that I want to pull out for you. Our debt story is terrifying. Total debt is projected to grow to 6 trillion rand. 6 trillion rand in the 2025 to 2026 financial year. And what we spend on servicing that debt has grown to 389 billion rand this year. So it's 22 cents of every rand that the government collects in revenue. Every rand that they collect goes towards servicing debt. It's now way more than R1 billion a day. And a caller recently wanted us to appreciate what R1 billion is and said, picture it being laid out in a stadium. I had to picture 389 billion rand laid out in a stadium and a man shoveling it into the hole of repaying debt at more than R1 billion a day, putting in long shifts, sweating it out while they're shoveling it in. It's a scary story. Government says they're trying to bring it under control, but you will hear voices, of course, that will say, actually, it's nothing, this level of debt, if you are seeking to stimulate the economy and ensure that you spend on growing the economy. Certainly, that's the view of SAFTU, that actually you can keep a budget deficit that is even higher than that, and actually you can engage in a bit more borrowing, not recklessly, but borrow and spend on the productive sectors of the economy. So that's in a nutshell, the numbers for you. And as I said, we will focus on those a bit later on in the second hour of the show. I do need to flag that I will bring you an interview with Advocate Thembeka Ngcukaitobi. You don't want to miss that. You want to hear his views on the prospects for land reform and land redistribution in the context of a government of national unity. And his views are not exactly what you would expect. He actually believes that on paper at least, the government of national unity has the potential to drive land reform, on paper at least. Not so sure, though, is Thembeka Ngcukaitobi, whether the commitment will be there, the political commitment to follow through on what is committed on paper, as well as what the Constitution makes as an imperative around land reform. And lastly, I want to mention what his views are on the question of people either choosing money or getting the land back. He says it's a false choice. The people need both. Why should there be a choice now when back in the days it used to be that when you were getting the land, you would get all the support that you need? He says people should not be made to choose between the two. So that in a nutshell is what we have in store for you. And all of your regulars, of course, are lined up. We have Modupi Makhalimela with your news every half hour. Rob Byrne with your traffic update every 15 minutes or so. Zaikan is watching your sport throughout the morning. Dauleng Lechela has your economics, business and market news covered. Sipho Mantula with your Africa update just before 8 a.m. And of course, we are taking your calls. The number to dial is 086 000 2032. We'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes on these and other topics on 061 410 4107. This is SAFM, Conversations That Move Us. The first hour of the Thursday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
What's going on, everybody? You want to catch the Psalmist? 2nd of November, 7:30 is all the red carpet action. We don't come through looking like that when the night arrives. 8 p.m. main show only on SABC 1. Yeah, get what's called in.
Celebrate 30 years of music with the Summer Awards. Saturday 2 November. Yellow carpet starts at 7:30 p.m. and the main awards at 8 p.m. on SABC 1.
Did you know, since its establishment in 1998, SANRAL has expanded the national road network from 6,700 kilometers to 24,160 kilometers over 25 years. To improve road safety and efficiency, Operation Vala Zonke, a pothole repair program, is addressing pothole challenges in partnership with provincial and local governments. In the 2023-2024 financial year alone, 9,392 potholes have been fixed. Over the past decade, the provincial road maintenance grant has transferred 106.4 billion rand to the 9 provinces to enhance road quality.
Brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Modupi Makhalimela with that Daily News Diary. Good morning, Modupi. What do you have on the diary this morning?
A very good morning, Thulas. As of course you've mentioned, it's going to be a lot of reaction to the budget, the midterm budget policy statement by our finance minister yesterday. We're going to be looking at all the different political parties, even people on the streets, basically from all angles. We're going to be getting reaction of what it means for everyone going forward. What's happened now is that another child has died of suspected food poisoning, this time a 9-year-old girl in Zwelicha in the Eastern Cape. She apparently consumed a packet of chips at school yesterday and passed on after that. It's a very concerning trend that we're seeing nowadays with all these
it really is.
Incidents happening. We're also going to be looking at, of course, the aftermath of the Mqhekezweni attacks. Also in the Eastern Cape, as we know, the chieftainess Mtikhaga was killed. Another woman as well was killed. And, of course, the rape of the matric learners in the area. Terrible things happening there. We're going to be following up on that. What's happening in the courts, the big one today, besides all the regulars, is the insurance fraud case. The police officer who's accused of killing 9 people for insurance claims amounting to 10 million. She continues her bail application today in Polokwane. That's Rachel Makutumela. And another one to us is, of course, we'll await the results of Botswana's election yesterday. What it means for our neighbors. President Mokgweetsi Masisi, as we know, is seeking a second term and is widely expected to get it. That's a snippet of what we're going to be looking at today, and of course a lot more.
Yeah, all right. Thank you for that. That's Mudupi Makhalemele. He will have all of your updates every half hour here on the Morning Brief, and of course you can catch all of those stories throughout the day here on SAFM and other SABC News platforms.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
18 minutes after 6, let's give you a sense of what your weather is looking like today. There's just one warning. It's a fire danger warning. It says extremely high fire danger conditions are expected in places in the northeastern parts of the Northern Cape, as well as in places in the northwestern parts of the Northwest Province. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria is fine with a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 29. Johannesburg, fine, 12 to 27. Mbombela is cloudy with drizzle, minimum of 14 and a maximum of 26. Polokwane, partly cloudy, 14 to 26. Mahikeng is fine, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon with a minimum of 14 and a maximum of 31. Bloemfontein is fine, 8 to 28. Kimberley, fine, 11 to 30. Cape Town is fine. The wind is moderate to fresh southeasterly with a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 25. Gqeberha will be fine. The wind will be light to moderate easterly with a minimum of 14 and a maximum of 22. East London is cloudy in the morning, otherwise fine. The wind is light westerly, becoming easterly to northeasterly by midday with a minimum of 14 and a maximum of 21. Durban is cloudy. The wind will be moderate to fresh southerly to southwesterly, becoming moderate easterly to northeasterly from the afternoon with a minimum of 16 and a maximum of 23. And finally, Pietermaritzburg will be cloudy with a minimum of 11 and a maximum of 22.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said, "Grrr."
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the reed dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, "Bayede."
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
Fizzy drinks and fruit juices are making our kids sick. Sugar is dumped into their bodies with every sip, leading to obesity, heart disease, and diabetes as they get older. We need to protect our kids from all sugary drinks. Demand a stronger health promotion levy now. Sign the petition on healer.org. That's HEALA.org.
Did you know the October Transport Month campaign commenced on the 1st of October 2024? This year marks an important milestone in the calendar of the National Department and Provincial Departments of Transport as they celebrate 19 years of the annual October Transport Month OTM campaign. The OTM highlights the extent to which the department, provincial departments of transport, and entities of transport are responding to the priorities of the 7th administration, which include developing infrastructure to grow an inclusive and sustainable economy, create jobs, and improve standards of living while improving overall service delivery efficiencies. Doing more together, building better infrastructure, and delivering efficient service through collaboration. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
Let's focus on this story for that. 9 people were injured, several apartments set ablaze, and a kindergarten was damaged in Russia's 19th attack on the Ukrainian capital this month, according to officials in Kyiv. In another attack, at least 4 people were killed in Ukraine's second largest city of Kharkiv on Tuesday as the war between Ukraine and Russia escalates. The almost 2.5-year war has killed thousands of people, most of them Ukrainians, and it has turned cities and villages into piles of rubble. Let's bring into the conversation Stephen Gruzd, who is head of the Africa-Russia project at the South African Institute of International Affairs. Good morning to you, Mr. Gruzd. I've got to thank you for your time. So, from your reading of the war in Ukraine, some 2.5 years later, has it become a war of attrition such that it's starting to dawn, even if it's not acknowledged, perhaps starting to dawn on all parties that there is no path to clear victory for either side?
Thank you so much for having me. And excuse me, I have a bit of a cold, so my voice might sound a little bit funny. As you mentioned in your report, there are still maneuvers on the battlefield. There are still attacks and forays made by both sides. I mean, we saw in the last couple of months Ukraine invade Russian territory in the Kursk region, and just from what your report, there still continue to be attacks. But I think both sides are getting weary of it, and the prospect of peace is more realistic perhaps now than it was 6 months ago, as both sides are hurting, and it has been a bit of a stalemate, and maybe it's time, there's a realization that it might be time to talk now.
Yeah, in fact, that's exactly what the Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha was saying on Monday after meeting with our International Relations Minister Ronald Lamula, that they would be ready for peace talks. Any idea of how and who would be key in brokering some kind of a truce between the two countries?
Well, it's been a crowded field of countries wanting to mediate. You've had mediatory moves by Turkey on the Black Sea grain deal, for example. You've had South Africa put its hand up as part of the African Peace Initiative with 6 other countries. We've had plans from Brazil. We've had plans from China and India. The US is a possibility, I suppose, although its position in NATO might make it difficult. So we're not short of possible mediators. Of course, the Ukrainians have been pushing a peace formula. They had a summit earlier in the year to which Russia was not invited, and they've now said that was in Switzerland, and now said that in the second meeting of this peace initiative, Russia would be invited. So we definitely are seeing a change and a desire to bring this horrible war to an end.
Is there appetite, though, in Moscow for that kind of negotiation? And I ask that in the context of the recently held BRICS summit and On Ukraine, the Kazan Declaration reads, quote, "We emphasize that all states should act consistently with the purposes and principles of the UN Charter in their entirety and interrelation. We note with appreciation relevant proposals of mediation and good offices aimed at a peaceful resolution of the conflict through dialogue and diplomacy." Can we read a lot into Vladimir Putin being party to that declaration, or it does the tone and attitude change as soon as he's back in the Kremlin?
Yeah, look, it's very generalized. It doesn't even mention the word Ukraine, which is something which is quite telling. We saw a similar sort of a dual approach when the Black Sea Grain Initiative was announced and signed, which of course has not been renewed, but that was to allow ships carrying grain out of the Black Sea. On that very same day, Moscow was attacking Kiev and other parts of Ukraine. So talking peace on the one hand and making maneuvers on the battlefield on the other. And we've seen something similar. In your report, you talked about several attacks that have happened, even while there is talk of a peace deal. So, I think part of the problem, though, is that Ukraine doesn't want to give up its territory. And in fact, its maximum demands is for Crimea back, which was annexed in 2014. And I don't think that's realistic. I think Ukraine would have to cede some kind of territorial territory that Russia's occupied to Russia, and I don't know if that would be acceptable to them. So it's not easy, and peace is not imminent. It's not on the doorstep, but maybe the first steps toward it are going to happen.
Do we overestimate South Africa's potential, role in carving a path to peace, or are the estimations we place on it realistic, given the ability of Pretoria to maneuver between, Moscow and meeting with Vladimir Putin the 1 minute, but, the next minute President Ramaphosa able to engage with Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian Prime Minister traveling to South Africa as well as the imminent presidency of the G20?
Yes, I mean, it's going to be a big moment for South Africa as we take this leadership role on the world stage. But really, we haven't been as active as perhaps we could have been. We had the African Peace Initiative where 7 African leaders went to both Russia and Ukraine. It wasn't very successful. Not very much came out of it, but it was a start. And, I think we would probably be part of a broader mediation effort. I would be very surprised if it was South Africa that was the primary mediator in this conflict.
All right, Stephen Cruz, I can tell that you're battling the cold there, the flu. Please feel well.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing your time and your insights with us this morning. That's Stephen Cruz. He's head of the Africa-Russia project at the South African Institute of International Affairs.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
All right, in the interest of brevity and getting through the weather and prioritizing the warnings and the likes, we've tended to sort of, shorten it a little bit and touch on the highlights in the major cities. But hey, the people of the big city of Richards Bay are not letting it go. And we've had to relent. So my apologies in my interest of trying to prioritize the warnings and prioritizing, the highlights, really, to just get a better sense of what the weather looks like across the country. Sometimes we leave out Richards Bay. But, as a truce, let's give you a weather for Richards Bay for today. Richards Bay will be cloudy with light rain. The wind will be moderate to fresh southerly to southwesterly, becoming moderate easterly to northeasterly from the afternoon, with a minimum of 18 and a maximum of 24. I'm not trolling you. We are going to fix this, and I will make sure that I include Richards Bay going forward. And that's how we come to 6:30. Let's check in with Modupi Makhalemele with the latest news headlines.
Thank you very much, Thulas, and a very good morning to you. With the news headlines this hour, Agriculture Minister and DA leader John Steenhuisen has welcomed the Finance Minister's announcement that more will be spent on infrastructure development. Police have opened an inquest docket following the death of a 9-year-old girl in Zwelicha in the Eastern Cape after allegedly consuming a packet of chips. And a court in France has sentenced a former Rwandan doctor to 27 years in jail for crimes related to the 1994 genocide in his country. And those are your headlines. A full news update, 7 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just before we get into the nitty-gritty of this morning's rush hour, don't forget this Sunday sees the running of the very, very popular Soweto Marathon. So lots of closures in store Sunday morning into the early part of the afternoon. If you've got any plans to be in Soweto, it will be quite extensively locked down from Diepkloof down through Pimville, around Kliptown, back up through Nasrec area as well. So lots of road closures in store this Sunday. Gauteng looks generally all right this morning, nothing really alarming. If you're driving out of Pietermaritzburg to Durban, there's a crash just after Ashburton. That's causing a backlog of traffic, and then a breakdown before you get to Umlos Road as well. So a couple of obstructions on your way towards Durban. Durban itself looking generally okay. Traffic starting to build up on the N2 North through the roadworks at Westwood Mall. And you've also just got the roadworks that have been in since the weekend. N3 outbound ramp onto the N2, and that gets slow in the morning and afternoon peak times as well. Cape Town, the roadworks inbound before Hospital Bend were lifted a little bit late, but they're all out of the way now. It is a busy run through to Cape Town, queuing up through Khayelitsha on the N2 down towards the R300, and then from the airport through to Mowbray Main Road's already very busy. And Baden-Powell Drive is closed at Monmobisi because of very thick sand on the road. So if you normally come off the N2 and go down to Muizenberg or travel from Muizenberg up towards the N2, you'll be diverted locally through Khayelitsha. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey Zai, good morning. I see that the Masandawana, the Brazilians of Mamelodi, are finding their mojo again.
Oh, I mean, they were on fire. Yeah, well, last night, literally on fire. So this showdown with Sundowns, it was going to go either way. And guess what? 3-0.
With their 57 fans. I'm sorry.
57?
Don't come for me.
Wait. What was that? Anyway, let's see what we have on the score sheet here. Bouncing back over Cape Town City at the Loftus Fransfeld Stadium last night. Sundowns having a win in the Betway Premiership. Now remember, the Brazilians suffered a surprise defeat at the hands of Polokwane City this past weekend. But they got goals from Peter Shalulile, 2, and Lucas Ribeiro. The result sees the champions remain in second place on the log, 3 points shy of leaders Orlando Pirates, while the Citizens are further 10 points back in 13th place after a second league loss of the season. Another match, Magesi squandered their 2-goal lead to draw 2-2 with Kaizer Chiefs at the Peter Mokaba Stadium in Polokwane. In the meantime, Golden Arrows and SuperSport United played out to a goalless draw at the Mpumalanga Stadium. Now, the South African Football Association President, Danny Jordan, is confident that CAF President Patrice Motsepe will retain his position next year and reveal that 40 out of 54 member associations have nominated him for a second term.
The nominations, and a nomination is not a vote, but nomination is expression of support. And we have reached over 40 out of 53. So if the vote follows the pledge, you see what is the end result. We are confident that he will be re-elected as president.
Now, soccer action elsewhere. Cody Gakpo netted twice in a thrilling 5-goal second half to send Carabao Cup holders Liverpool into the quarterfinals with a 3-2 victory over Brighton. In the meantime, Newcastle kept their dream of ending their long wait for a trophy alive. They beat Chelsea 2-0 to reach the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup.
Don't troll me.
Yeah, Thulas. Anyway, Newcastle were beaten, by the way, in the final of this competition in 2023. But now their hope of a first trophy since 1969 is one step closer. For Chelsea, who made 11 changes again for a cup competition after they had beaten Newcastle in the Premier League this weekend, it's the first major setback of the season under Enzo Maresca. Cricket action, and South Africa's Proteas are in control in the second test against Bangladesh, setting a commanding score of 575 for 6 declared after an impressive 144.2 overs. Bangladesh are struggling. They are on 66 for the loss of 8 wickets, trailing by a massive 509 runs. The Proteas lead the series 1-0 and are in a strong position to clinch it. And finally, tennis. Daniel Medvedev still searching for his first ATP tournament victory this year after the world number 5 lost to Australia's Alexei Popyrin for the first time in his career at the Paris Masters. Popyrin, who has been in a rich vein of form, winning his first Masters tournament in Montreal, beating Novak Djokovic at the US Open, has now edged Medvedev 6-4, 2-6, 7-6 in a gripping second round match. We'll bring you the second round of sports headlines, top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
For that, let's say good morning to Ndauling Lechelan. Ndauling, tell me about the United States economy. We always watch it closely, and I always reiterate this. We are seeing signs of resilience there.
Yes, that's right, Silas. Good morning to you and everyone listening. Now, the U.S. economy has expanded in the third quarter. GDP came in at 2.8%. Analysts welcomed the move, but sounded the alarm as growth slowed. In the second quarter, growth came in at 3%. Last quarter's print was also under estimates, with economists pegging in growth of 3.1%. Now, according to the latest report, consumer spending, accounting for about 2/3 of all economic activity, has been a vital driver, with personal consumption expenditures, the index that tracks consumer spending, increasing by 3.7% in the third quarter. This performance, the strongest since the first quarter of 2023, contributing nearly 2.5 percentage points to the total GDP. Now, government spending also played a significant role, up 9.7%. due to a near 15% increase in defense outlays. This fiscal spending contributed 0.6 percentage points to GDP growth. Now, the acceleration in growth also confirms that the U.S. economy is on track to end the year strong, with economists expecting growth of 2.7% for 2024.
And I see that the yellow metal is glittering all the way in the third quarter.
And you're absolutely right. All that glitters is proving to be gold. Now, global gold demand for the yellow metal jumped 5% year on year, which then pushed consumption above $100 billion for the first time. According to the World Gold Council's report on trends playing out in the space, demand was driven by strong investment flows from Western investors, which offset the decline in demand from Asia. The gold market has been fueled by key factors including central banks' continued buying spree and increased demand from wealthy investors. Additionally, geopolitical uncertainty, particularly surrounding the upcoming U.S. election, has boosted gold's appeal as a safe haven asset. As a result, gold prices have rallied by over 35% this year, reaching record highs of above $2,782 an ounce. Investment flows into ETFs, bars, and coins have also reached their highest level since 2022. Looking ahead, fiscal concerns regarding U.S. government debt are expected to drive demand for gold. Central banks, especially those in emerging markets, are also likely to continue purchasing the yellow metal as they diversify their portfolios away from the U.S. dollar. Price forecasts predict that gold will reach $3,000 an ounce by mid-2025.
All right, Ndauling, lastly, here at home, all eyes were on the medium-term budget policy statement. How did the market receive that, as well as, a roundup of Asia and the United States?
All right, starting off in the US, so far this week, trade has been really choppy to us, with investors not making any big bets before the US election. With that, we saw US markets slip back into the red despite upbeat growth figures and tech earnings reports. The tech-heavy NASDAQ surprisingly taking the biggest knock, closing over 0.5% in the red. Coming back home, a similar trend playing out on the local front, with stocks in negative territory. The all-share share shedding 0.6%. As you mentioned, local investors have been digesting yesterday's midterm budget, and with that, the rand has continued to trade range bound. Not much of a difference there. It's trading at 17.67 to the dollar. Moving over to Asia, markets trading mixed with investors digesting the Bank of Japan's decision to hold rates.
All right, thank you for that. Ndauling Lechela will be back with another update just after 7:30, giving you an update on all things to do with the economy, business, as well as watching the markets here at home and around the world.
South African Airways is expanding in the DRC. We now offer direct flights from Johannesburg to Lubumbashi, the heart of the DRC's mining hub. Our convenient arrival time allows seamless connections to key regions like Ndola and the Copper Belt, opening up new growth opportunities. Traders can benefit from our generous baggage allowance, while SAA's superior aircraft belly capacity ensures your cargo reaches most parts of Congo on the same day. Book now at flysaa.com or contact your travel agent. South African Airways, connecting Africa to the world, one flight at a time.
The Recording Industry of South Africa presents the 30th South African Music Awards, happening on Saturday, 2nd November at Gallagher Convention Centre. Featuring Squatter Camp, Usikhatebe, KB, Tebe, Matthew Mo, Tandeni SK, Zingumalo, and many more. Join us as we celebrate 30 years of Summers. Get your tickets now at Web Tickets and all Pick and Pay stores. The 30th South African Music Awards. Less noise, more music. Hashtag Summer 30.
16 teams of Mzansi Africa's Elite League are back to the battlefield. Namandla Masha. They all believe ukuthi kuzoba right, kube bright, as they navigate the path to the final. This is the second edition of the Carlin Knockout Cup. Fakugesi. Catch the unmatched passion and drama of Ibola laseMzansi, the Carlin Knockout Cup, live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
Let's turn to this story now. The Public Servants Association in KwaZulu-Natal has raised the alarm over the recent disconnection of water services at KwaZulu-Natal government facilities due to unpaid bills. The PSA says water cuts were implemented by the Msunduzi municipality at the Provincial Department of Health's headquarters owing to an unpaid bill. The Department of Basic Education's head office in Pietermaritzburg was also affected due to millions owed by schools across the province. Let's bring into the conversation Mlu Ndlovu, who is the KZN Provincial Manager of the Public Servants Association, the PSA. Good morning to you, Mlu. I've got to thank you for your time. What is your understanding of these cuts that have been implemented by the municipality and how they are affecting services at these departments?
So as PSA in the province strongly condemn this recent disconnection of water service at key department. That includes the Department of Health, the Department of Basic Education. There's also Public Work, because these disconnection result to the unpaid municipality bid highlight a systematic financial management that disrupt essential service, public service at the critical time. If you look at Department of Education, for example, office serve as a central support system of schools across the province, which is especially crucial during exam period. So this disruption of administration support affect schools' ability to coordinate exams, manage staff, and maintain stable learning environment, which places unnecessary stress to learners and educators. It is for this reason, as PSA, we're calling for immediate mediation by the Office of the Premier and the Provincial Treasurer, functional coordinations between municipality authority and the department to ensure that bills are paid on time. But we also call for management consequences, because if you look at Grace, for example, they were owing about 6.9 million for quite some times. We must be able to question why the department has not paid this amount to the municipality, what have been done by accounting officer. But we must also take to account that these austerity measures that have been implemented in department, now they are struggling. For example, in schools, there were schools that they disconnect electricity because the department did not allocate money for norms, because department are struggling with issues of budget. As much as we have seen the minister celebrating the surplus due to the austerity measures, but it affecting operational service. That's why as PSA we are saying COGTA should be able to release a report how many departments that are on the pipeline to be disconnected, so that this mediation can be able to assist. The past days, the department were forced to release staff because it was water and electricity. To release staff in this department, they were unable to provide services. So we cannot say when people have not paid and there is a provincial department, they are failing to engage, because it's not between public and private sector. Taking into account this municipality is owned by private sector, about 7 billion. So if they are tired, they are not getting joy in the provincial level, there should be a level of engagement, involvement, intervention from the national level.
Who should be held accountable for this, and how are you as the PSA holding those people accountable?
So firstly, as PSA, we're calling for audit and clear accountability measures to identify and address root causes of this financial oversight. The public institution must be safeguarded from this disruption. So we are saying the accounting officers of all the department must provide explanation. Is it their fail on their side, or is it because they've not been given money? Because it can't be business as usual, because we are aware that Department of Health, for example, the following day they paid about 14 million. Why this was not paid in time? So that's why I'm saying these things must be investigated, because as PSA, we will not enjoy when our members are sent at home. We are there to provide service. As PSA, we are responsible to ensure that they must be able to investigate. So all the parties, public protector, they must be able to come on board, because this is ongoing. It was Durban last year, eThekwini municipality, all the municipalities are fed up. You cannot have departments that are unable to pay services to the municipalities, yet this department need to look after this local government. What we're saying, there should be a balance. So the Premier should be able to take this matter seriously, hold all the MEC accountable. But at the same time, we are saying these austerity measures are affecting service delivery, because it's not only the utilities that they are unable to pay, they are unable to fill positions. This disruption is affecting the public. So as PSA, we can't be silenced.
So if I understand you correctly, and you'll clarify if I'm not getting you correctly, what accounts mostly for the inability of departments to pay for the services they receive from municipalities? Is it the budget cuts that are cascading from the national level all the way to provincial, as well as further down into line departments, or is it an issue of a systemic management failure, particularly with those two departments, Department of Health and the Department of Education? Which one contributes more? I'm open to the possibility that it could be a bit of both.
Yeah, it can be the combinations, but what we are saying as PSA is that there's a systematic failure, because you cannot say you are unable to pay municipality bill for over 3 years, because this money that they are owing, like public works, they own over 50 million. So what we're saying is that why they were waiting and not being able to pay, it seems as if they are not prioritizing these services. It is for these reasons we are saying we must hold this government accountable. There should be an action. The office of the Premier is responsible for it. Let them explain, let them provide the reason why they were unable to pay. Because if they don't provide these services, if there is no water, as PSA will not allow our members to work under those conditions. If there is no electricity, how do you expect the district and local institutions to be able to connect with the administrative support? support. That's why we are saying we are not only coming here only to debate these issues. We want accountability. Government complain about wage bill that is bloated, which we always disagree. But what we are saying is that there is a wastage in the system. There is mismanagement in the system. The accounting officers must take full responsibilities.
Got you. Thank you for that. That's Mlu Ndlovu, who is the KZN Provincial Manager of the Public Servants Association.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
Ever tried to paint a wall with only a brush? Or hung a picture on just a nail and a prayer? The contestants on My Design Rules will be the first to tell you good design starts with the right tools. Tune in to My Design Rules every Sunday at 7 p.m. on SABC3 and stand a chance to win a weekend away in the winning apartment. From beginner projects to expert builds, Buco has the tools and materials you need to get the job done. Ready to kickstart your next DIY project? Begin with Buco.
Buco.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Some delays coming into Galulis from Ekurhuleni this morning. This is a breakdown, stationary vehicle before the interchange, so that backs the N12 and R24 routes quite heavily, particularly the R24 coming through from Edenvale. Also some delays through from Protea Glen, the N12 sitting through Klipstrand Valley Road up towards the Golden Highway exit to Eldorado Park. That is if you're at Joburg. N1 clear of any incidents coming out of Pretoria to Joburg, but it is busy. Old Joburg Road down to New Road, although that is a fairly standard congestion these days. This time of morning, earlier crash between Ashburton and Linfield Park causing some delays if you're on your way down towards the Durban area. South Coast Road, M7, those lights are working this morning. That's good news. And there's no roadworks on the M4 Southern Freeway. It's clear for run through Umbilo and Kongela. Cape Town, Baden-Powell Drive closed at the bottom of Khayelitsha due to thick sand at Monwabisi Bend or Monwabisi Curve or Sandy Corner as they call it these days. Thick sand there. So Baden-Powell closed in that Monwabisi area. Motorists will be diverted locally through Khayelitsha. And there's a breakdown on the N2 out of town before or in front of Khayelitsha. Before Spine Road, just one lane open, and that's already pushing traffic heading out towards Somerset West back towards the Mew Way exit. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
8 minutes to 7. Let's focus on this story now. The KwaZulu-Natal Premier Thami Ntuli yesterday led members of the Executive Council, MECs, to Umkhanyakude District Municipality to engage with various communities on issues of service delivery. The visit happens under Operation Sukuma Sakhe Cabinet Day, a platform that allows community members to interact directly with the Premier and other government officials about issues they face. The Premier, Thami Ntuli, joins me now to take that conversation forward. Good morning to you, Premier. Please tell us what you found on this Sukuma Sakhe Cabinet Day when you engaged communities in Umkhanyakude. I imagine that the issues of water availability and infrastructure were foremost among the residents that you engaged with.
Absolutely, Makutra. That is what we found when we were in Umkhanyakude. I must greet you, Makutra, and to the listeners, and thank you for having us. When the government goes to the community, it offers them an opportunity to voice their frustrations, which are informed by the issues of service delivery and also the issues of crime. That are the issues that were raised when we visited Umkhanyakude, especially water issues. They were at the center, and they were of even the view that some of the projects that have been done with a lot of money, they did not produce water. And they were categorical that they want government to investigate. Hence, because we also had the MEC for Kokta, we said he must take over on the matter. The issues of the roads, tar roads, and even the access road, the issues of a shortage of high schools, because they were not just saying schools, but they were specific on the high schools. There are some of the issues that were sharply raised on a number of times.
Just on the issue of water, and the reason why I could easily point to that is that it has been raised quite a number of times over the last few years. What were you able to say to them? Because I imagine that the community at this point doesn't want any more commitments, pledges to fix the situation, but would rather see actual delivery on those promises.
It is likely that already, before even going to Mkanyabute, our approach as the provincial government is that we strengthen the functioning of the municipalities. In Mkanyabute, we have recently sent the administrator, a new administrator, whom we believe that the experience that he possesses will the administration of Mkanyabute to turn around the situation. But we said we want a project on the ground, and also we want to see the impact of each and every project so that we will be able to assess whether we're going forward in terms of addressing the issues of water.
Premier, we're battling with your line, so let me turn to this other story now that we wanted to ask you about. You probably would have heard my conversation with the Public Servants Association and their concerns. Why are provincial department head offices in Pietermaritzburg being disconnected, Premier? How is this happening on your watch?
When what is happening is the issue of the debts that government departments owe municipalities. And on my arrival, I have said we need to pay municipalities what we owe. But they explained to me some dynamics that at times the problem is not that they are not willing to pay, but there is always a contestation on the invoices, which cause the actually delays. We have been, in fact, straightforward as government that they must pay municipalities. They must even pay other government departments that they owe in such a way that I even wrote a letter to the head of departments, since you know that the head of departments are appointed by the Premier, to say, give me a turnaround time of paying municipalities and government departments. I want a plan. I want to know when and how much are you going to pay. I've done that so that I will submit back to the cabinet to say, this is the plan by the departments. In fact, we are pushing government departments to ensure that they pay for the services.
So, Premier, when you say there's sometimes the dynamic of contestation around the invoices, are you saying that sometimes municipalities bill incorrectly and therefore departments quibble with that bill, which leads to a delay in paying? I would say that's also within your wherewithal. You could cause a more comprehensive approach that would involve municipalities as well as these departments and get to the bottom of it, such that even those instances of incorrect billing don't arise. Okay, I can hear from that tone that we do.
Now,
Premier, we've been battling with your line. Let's see if we have you back now.
Yes, Makuta, I'm not quite sure whether you have me.
Yes, did you hear the question that I asked? Even that whole quibbling around the bills sent, I would say you have the wherewithal as Premier to actually cause a lasting and sustainable solution, even for that to be addressed, such that it doesn't lead to this embarrassing situation and inconvenient situation where, services are cut to departments.
Yeah, well, in our engagement, Makutra, with the MECs in the cabinet, was towards that we need not, in fact, to only know when payments are to be made that there is a problem. The departments needs to introduce a measure that will allow them to work with the municipalities to move towards arriving at a particular invoice. And I'm quite hopeful that they are working out the plan that will prevent that. But I must say, as much as I know that there are issues of dispute on the invoices, but I also have a view, hence I wrote to the head of departments that they are not taking serious for the services at times. In certain invoices, it's not that they are not processing quite fast. The invoices which incapacitate the municipalities.
All right, Premier, let's leave it there. We did have some battles with your line, but we did get the gist of your response to these issues. That's the KwaZulu-Natal Premier, Thami Ntuli, speaking on the challenges that that the departments face in that province. And bringing us to 7 a.m., let's check in with Mudupi Makhalemele with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
Thank you very much, Thulasizwe. The top stories at 7, more reaction to the midterm budget statement, and another child dies of suspected food poisoning. A very good morning. Agriculture Minister and DA leader John Steenhuisen has welcomed the Finance Minister's announcement that more will be spent on infrastructure development. He was responding to Minister Enoch Godongwana's 2024 midterm budget policy statement in Parliament yesterday.
I'm also particularly pleased that we're moving from consumption spending to spending on investment and in infrastructure that's going to return greater income for South Africa. And of course, as a Minister of Agriculture, delighted about the interventions around structural reforms on rail and also on the Cape Town port. Very, very important for the agricultural sector of the country.
Godongwana says that voluntary early retirements are expected to reduce the ballooning public sector wage bill. The shifts between programs to accommodate the constrained national fiscus characterized his address. 30,000 employees are expected to take early retirement over a period of 2 years to save an estimated 2 billion rand a year. Godongwana says the incentive will cost the government about 11 billion rand.
We are also implementing initiatives like early retirement, not to merely reduce the size of the workforce, but also to introduce younger talent to the public service.
Authorities say police are questioning a person of interest in connection with the rape of 5 grade 12 learners in Mqhekezweni village outside Mthatha in the Eastern Cape. 2 balaclava-clad suspects attacked the learners in a house that they were renting and robbed them of their cell phones. The provincial government has provided the learners with psychological support and a place of safety to enable them to continue to write their exams. The local chieftainess and another woman were also gunned down in the village on Tuesday. Community Safety MEC Kolile Ngata says he's confident that those responsible for the crimes will soon be arrested.
They have processed the scene already, and there is some material that they are working on it, which we're confident will lead to arrest of the perpetrator or the perpetrators. Saddening as is, as I said before, that I'm certain about two things now in the province. Whoever commits these crimes will be arrested.
Still in the Eastern Cape, police have opened an inquest docket following the death of a 9-year-old girl in Zwelicha after allegedly consuming a packet of chips. The girl was at school yesterday when the incident happened. Police spokesperson Majolangohli says she was declared dead on arrival at a local clinic.
It is alleged that a 9-year-old girl was at the school when she became weak and started frothing at the mouth. It is further said that she was rushed to the nearest clinic where she was declared dead. Circumstances surrounding the incident are forming part of the investigation.
And international news, a court in France has sentenced a former Rwandan doctor to 27 years in jail for crimes related to the 1994 genocide in his country. Eugene Rwamusio was found guilty of complicity in genocide and crimes against humanity. The BBC's Kat Wiener has more.
While the court in Paris accepted that Mr. Ramucho had not directly participated in the atrocities of the 1994 Rwandan genocide, after a 4-week trial it concluded that he had helped the country's Hutu authorities to disseminate anti-Tutsi propaganda and attempted to cover up evidence of mass murder. Ramucho has denied any wrongdoing, saying the accusations are related to his opposition to the current Tutsi-led government. This is the 8th trial in France relating to the genocide, in which nearly 1 million people, predominantly ethnic Tutsis, were murdered by the Hutu majority.
The top story at 7 o'clock, Agriculture Minister and DA leader John Steenhuisen has welcomed the Finance Minister's announcement that more will be spent on infrastructure development. For SAFM News, Kemudupi Makhalemele.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out. The cost of living crisis is real. Here's what one Outsurance client did about it.
I'm Amy. I'm 26 from Kenilworth. When I got my 2022 Ford EcoSport, the immediate thought was to phone Outsurance, and I pay only 819 Rand per month. No insurers were able to beat or match the premium that I'm currently paying.
Want a car insurance premium that will blow your mind? SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online. SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just looking at some delays out around Pretoria East this morning. Linwood Road coming in off Graham Road in through Solomon Mhlanga is all quite heavily backed up, and Solomon Mhlanga quite heavy as well as you make your way between sort of Atterbury and Linwood Road. Possible traffic light issues. It always looks like that when you get traffic light faults. So there are some delays that part on multiple routes that part of Pretoria East this morning. N12 coming through from Protea Glen passing Lenasia up to El Dorado Park remains heavy into the Golden Highway. Except the crash at Linfield Park on your way down to Durban. Shifted to the side of the roadway. All lanes have been reopened there. There is a bit of a backlog. Looks like a crash scene around Hillcrest M13, just on the Kloof side of Old Main Road. So if you're going into Hillcrest or coming out of Hillcrest towards Kloof, that section of the M13 quite heavily backed up today. Cape Town, Baden-Powell Drive closed at the bottom of Khayelitsha at Momobisi. Very sandy at Sandy Corner. So you'd be diverted onto alternative routes there. And the N2 at the top of Khayelitsha is really struggling in quite a heavy queue. A breakdown before Spine Road, and that's pushing traffic back to the R300. If you're on your way out of Cape Town, that's quite a heavy delay this time of morning. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it is soccer to look forward to. Banyana, they will take off Mozambique in the semi-finals this afternoon. That's the 2024 COSAFA Cup Women's Championship action. And the Proteas are dominating Bangladesh. Bangladesh reeling. They are on 87 for the loss of 8 wickets. They're trailing a massive 488 runs. This is the second test and day 2. Details around 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's 8 minutes after 7. The second hour of the morning brief starts now. Thank you for joining us on this Thursday. We will have a strong focus on the medium-term budget policy statement, its implications. We've taken a thematic approach. There are hundreds of stories that one could pick out from the medium-term budget policy statement. Naturally, if you are spending that much money on various themes in society, you would have 101 stories coming out of it. it. But what we've decided to do over the next half hour is just pick out one or two themes that we think are quite important for you to be aware of. The Finance Minister, Enoch Godongwana, tabling the medium-term budget policy statement in which growth expectation is revised from what was 1.3% earlier on in the year to 1.1%. So what are the implications of that is the first focus we will have on employment, the country's employment situation. Part of the reason why SARS has not collected as much as they would have wanted to, in fact, by about 22 billion rand less than what they would have wanted. Part of that is that they are not getting enough tax from employment in the private sector. There's not enough of that happening in the private sector for them to be able to tax people. So we'll talk employment, but we'll also talk about, we were told yesterday, Operation Vulindlela 2.0, the second phase of that, just driving structural reforms that enable the economy, the pipeline industries. Among the sectors that were mentioned was the issue of water and the approach to water infrastructure. So that's our second theme in terms of focus within this half hour. And lastly, we'll be looking at the issue of what it all means for you and I on a daily basis, for consumers. What's in it for us? How is it making? One of the priorities, of course, of the Government of National Unity is reducing poverty and also reducing the cost of living. Did we see enough from that budget that signals that those goals will be pursued with any vigor, let alone attained? So that really is the focus of the next half hour. We have all of your regulars lined up in this hour, but of course we want you to be a part of the conversation. The number to dial for that is 086 000 2032. We'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. This is SAFM, Conversations That Move Us. The second hour of the Thursday edition of The Morning Brief starts now.
Hey there. Need to know your TV license balance but don't want to wait? No sweat. Just send a quick SMS with your ID or TV license number to 44210. Remember, standard SMS rates apply. And presto, your balance pops right up anytime, anywhere. It's as easy as pie. So why procrastinate? Give it a try and get your info in a flash. T's and C's apply.
Southern African Queens are back on the battlefield. 14 teams will tackle each other in the search of the ultimate glory. This is the Hollywood Bets COSAFA Women's Championship 2024. Witness the great contest by regional football queens from 22 October to 2 November 2024. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com.
For the love of the game.
Imagine if you could save time like you save money. A second here, a minute there. Type a little faster, walk a little faster. Or you could stop scrolling on the internet. Just think of all the hours you'll save. Now what if you could take all that time and invest it? Watch it grow. Until eventually, one day, you'd have so much time that you wouldn't know what to do with it all. But unfortunately, time doesn't work like that. It can't be stored or banked. And unlike money, you can't make it back. That's why after 50 years of investing, we've learned that time is the greatest gift of all. And the good news is, if you invest early, time gives you money. And then money gives you more time to do whatever you want to do, even if it is scrolling on the internet. Ellen Gray, long-term investing. Ellen Gray is an authorized FSP.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Thulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Right, let's start our focus here. There has been mixed reaction to the medium-term budget policy statement delivered by Minister Enoch Godongwana yesterday. Some key takeaways from it are that the National Treasury has cut its growth expectation for the current year from 1.3 to 1.1%, and has increased its projected budget deficit for the year from 4.5% to 5% of GDP. Let's bring into the conversation Dr. Ntabiseng Muleko of Stellenbosch Business School. Good morning to you, Dr. Muleko. I've got to thank you for your time. So the goal is to drive inclusive growth and employment creation. That's the stated goal, one of the stated goals of the Government of National Unity. Did the medium-term budget policy statement reflect that?
Very good morning, and thanks for having me. Well, I think you're right when you talk to the downward revision of growth. So the first thing is that if you've downwardly revised growth, the question that one must ask is what were the assumptions that went into the original model? So firstly, the growth downward revision from 1.3 to 1.1 simply means that the actual collections that we had purported for the 2024-2025 financial year, we won't meet those targets, and hence the minister announced more than 22 billion will not be collected. So there will be a shortfall of a very significant amount. And the question is, where will that gap be met? They have already tried to reduce in terms of expenditure across government departments. There is a primary surplus that is reported, which means it's simply the expenditure, the revenue against the non-interest expenditure. So you remove the debt servicing costs, and you're finding that we are having a revenue that exceeds the expenditure, but it's still not adequate. So primarily the outcome of that is telling you that the health and the performance of the economy is not what it should be. And also it's telling you that from a growth perspective, we obviously have to do a lot more efforts. Our efforts are not yielding the kind of results that we need, let alone you talking about employment. It's not yielding output gains. And the second question to ask is 1.1% growth adequate for the kind of problems that South Africa is facing, underdevelopment, poverty, nodes of inequality that are persistent, lack of economic productivity, agricultural productivity, labor productivity across the board. And of course, 1.1% is far from what we require. We actually need 6% growth in this country, and 6% concerted growth, stable growth over a long period of time, not just once, so that you can begin to deal with these underdevelopment laws. So of course, it's wholly inadequate for employment, let alone output.
The other big story, of course, is the story of debt. Our debt is now projected to reach 6 trillion rand within the next year, 2 years or so. But there's always that discussion and debate around it's fair and well to have debt, but where are you spending? Where did that borrowing go in terms of your priorities? Always between consumption spending versus spending on productive programs in the economy that stimulate the economy. Just from looking at the budget speech yesterday, did you get a sense that we are starting to correct that balance?
So where spending leads to growth formation is capital formation, what we call gross fixed capital formation. And that is an infrastructure, and that is a small component of our spending. So the percentage change year on year estimated from our original budget, where you've seen increase in this is around 3.7% from the original budget, 2024 budget in February. Is this sufficient? Probably not. I say that because where gross fixed capital formation was, we are now in 2024. It's sitting at around 15% of GDP. It's measured as an annual figure against GDP. We were in maybe around the 70s, late 70s, around 32%. We have gone to less than half of where we were 40, 50 years ago. Now, if we want to improve that, we're sitting in 2002, we were sitting at around 15%. So that's also 20 years ago. The best South Africa has had post-democracy is a gross fixed capital formation of around 23% in around 2008. And you'll remember, those were the peak growth years. So the issue here is, one of the underpinning pillars for the growth question in South Africa is infrastructure development and supporting growth-enhancing infrastructure. The Minister of Finance announced that yesterday. So the issue here is, how do we get this number of 15% up to 20, furtherwards up to 25, further up to 30, 35? So there's a host of things that need to be done, whether it's project preparation, it's fast-tracking triple Ps, it's getting capital from the private sector and mobilizing capital, not just from the state, because it's both the public and the private sector that invest in infrastructure. And it's making sure that there's capacity, not just for pipeline, a credible pipeline, but for the execution of projects across the different sectors where you need infrastructure. And the urgency is what we're not seeing across the economy, where you start to see these things happening at a very fast pace. And I think this is where we are not necessarily seeing the type of, efficiencies that we need, so that we can start to get the gains. So I think that the government is moving in the right direction, but it's not necessarily at the pace at which it needs to move.
I've got to thank you for your time. I've got to thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That's Dr. Nthabiseng Moleko of the Stellenbosch Business School.
Outsurance definitely understands the nature of our business. Being properly insured is extremely important to the success of our business.
They come to the party very quickly, resolve things.
Action speak much louder than words. Outsurance have shown us nothing but action.
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
There's a song that goes, "Money can't buy me love." And that's true. But then they told us all you need is love, which anybody with a mortgage will tell you most certainly is not true. Love won't pay your parking tickets or your student loan. It's also needy. It requires effort, availability, constant care. But more importantly, love requires time. And while money can't buy you love, it can certainly free up some of your time. Time to spend on the things you love, with the people you love. And if you're looking, maybe even time to find the one you love. That's why, after 50 years of investing, we've learned that time is the greatest gift of all. And the good news is, if you invest early, time gives you money. And then money gives you more time to do the things you love. And don't you love that about investing? Ellen Gray, long-term investing. Ellen Gray is an authorized FSP.
The Natal Rich Boys and the Citizens are all searching for the semi-final spot. KZN is up against Western Cape. This is the quarterfinal of the Carlin Knockout. Fakugesi. Catch the unmatched passion and drama of Ibola Lasemzansi, Richards Bay FC versus Cape Town City FC. This Saturday, 2 November at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone. Always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said, "Grrr."
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, "Baye!"
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
23 minutes after 7. The country's water challenges were part of the issues highlighted in the medium-term budget policy statement of the finance minister yesterday. He announced plans to establish private partnerships, public-private partnerships with the Department of Water and Sanitation at the center of it all, and these will focus on non-revenue water and recycling wastewater. Let's bring into the conversation Dr. Ferial Adam, WaterCan's Executive Director. Good morning to you, Doc. I've got to thank you for your time. So it would seem the approach to responding to the water challenges, the growing water challenges that we see, partly involves water partnerships, a water partnerships office in the Department of Water and Sanitation, as well as focusing on non-revenue water and recycling wastewater. Did the minister strike the right chords on these issues for you?
Good morning to you, Thulasizwe, and to your listeners.
Look, I think the partnerships is an important one, but I think in general, we didn't find that with regards to water that this was a very promising budget.
How so? What was lacking? What was missing?
So, it's clear that they understand that there's a state of the disaster, but I don't think that they have the capacity to do too much about it. So if you look at what was being said, besides the highlighted projects in terms of the partnerships, and if you look at the partnerships, it doesn't have a lot of budget for it. So what can it really do? That's the challenge, is that it's there, it's working, but it doesn't have the budget to actually fix the leaks or the non-revenue water at this point. They still need to find that budget. But also, what was very interesting is that no mega regional bulk infrastructure project were completed in the first half of the year. And interestingly, because of lack of electricity, so Eskom electricity connections, and then also poor contractor performance. So that's affecting the rollout of the department's projects, and it's delaying issues quite a bit. They only managed to finish one regional bulk infrastructure project out of 6.
So given what you've just outlined, do you share the view that there's room for private sector investment in water? Because that's the essence of what was said by the finance minister, specifically focusing on non-revenue water and recycling of wastewater. To what extent is there a gap there where the private sector could come in and plug in the gap, whatever the model of concessioning, build, own, operate and transfer, etc.? Yeah.
So I think that is very important that you talk about the gap, because I think my fear is that it must not be a total handover to the private sector. And from this budget, there were very strong comments about that for me would indicate that are we going to go the full privatization way in terms of handing over our water services to private companies? And the challenge with that is, majority of South Africans don't have proper access to good, safe drinking water. And how does this work in terms of private companies who want to make a profit, dealing with free basic services, dealing with the fact that almost half of South Africans don't have a tap in their homes? Are they going to deal with that backlog? And so that's what that partnership looks like is very important to us. So they've been talking about public-private partnerships for a very long time, but we need to unpack what that means and what it means to our water services as becoming privatized. And that's where we are concerned about those comments in particular.
Gotcha. Thank you for those insights this morning. That's Dr. Ferial Adam, Water Can's Executive Director.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
All right, let's bring in Annelien van der Poel, who is the Chief Operations Officer at Debt Rescue, and we want to now focus on the implications for you and I as ordinary consumers. Good morning to you, Annelien, and thank you for your time this morning. So just give me a sense of, there was a bit of a focus on inflation, of course, that sits with monetary policy in terms of the scheme of how the economy is governed, but it was touched upon by the finance minister yesterday. What is your sense in terms of the implications of the budget and the direction in which we are heading on issues of monetary policy for the ordinary consumer?
Good morning to the Thulasizwe, and good morning to all your listeners. Obviously it's a difficult thing when it comes to these budgets, because most of the items covered are based on what it does for the country and the economy, and doesn't specifically address, the direct needs of consumers. And realistically speaking, what we heard yesterday is obviously projected growth has been now reduced down to 1.1%. So that's obviously, not a great number, and especially for it going down. And the things that we really need focus on, and I know it was addressed, but we're still falling short, is, for example, the grey listing, because the grey listing ultimately has knock-on effects. They've still got 6 key items that need to be addressed before February. Otherwise, we're going to have to wait until October. And the end result of that is ultimately it affects investment into the country, and that affects job creation. Job creation is probably our biggest problem we are sitting with right now. And even though, if we speak about inflation, even though inflation is, finally for the past 3 months now within the Reserve Bank's 3 to 6%, the reality for us as average consumers is we're not seeing the actual true effect coming into the cost of living crisis, what goods cost. Things are still going up. They're definitely not coming down. They're just going up at a slower rate, and we don't know for how long that'll be sustainable. So for us as consumers, not really anything tangible yet that's going to affect us positively financially.
There was much talk about, increasing the basket of zero-rated products, particularly those products that include poultry, that are a source of protein for quite many people, particularly low-income earners and the likes. And that didn't come through. Were you surprised that it didn't come through? Because perhaps, it might come through in the budget in February.
I think exactly that. I don't, the midterm budget speech is usually not a big decision maker. It's more of an update and just giving us an idea of where we stand on what they wanted in February or want to achieve in February. So not completely surprised that it wasn't addressed now. Hoping obviously very positively that it would be addressed next year when they do the full budget speech. But no, not really surprised.
All right, thank you for that. Annelyn van der Poel, who is the Chief Operations Officer at Debt Rescue. Bringing us to 7:30, let's check in with Modupi Makhalemele with the latest news headlines.
Thank you very much, Thulas, and a very good morning to you. With the news headlines this hour, diamond dealer Louis Liebenberg, his wife Desiree, and 4 co-accused are expected to apply for bail when their case resumes in the Bronkhorstspruit Magistrates Court east of Pretoria. The IFP says as a GNU partner, it welcomes the Finance Minister's midterm budget policy statement delivered in Parliament yesterday, and the funeral service for 6-year-old Amantle Samani will be held at the Orlando East Community Hall in Soweto today. Details of these and other stories at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Still very slow out of Joburg's Lenasia and Protea Glen up to Eldorado Park. The M12 Joburg bound, queuing quite heavily through to the Golden Highway exit at Eldos. Crash on the M1 North at Malabongwe, so heavy traffic coming through from the Bayers Nordia side. And the Mike 1 this morning, sitting in heavy stuff between Boysons and the Oxford Road exit up to Parktown area. Pretoria East, Solomon Mshlago, Linwood Road, a lot of traffic congestion that side this morning. Both of those routes around that junction heavily backed up. Into Durban, there's a lane closure on Victoria Embankment near the Yacht Club, so coming in off the M4 Southern Freeway through Congella for a turn onto the Esplanade, that's all very heavily backed up. A crash at Hillcrest on the M13, it's eastbound after Old Main Road, it's causing quite a delay, backing up traffic on Old Main coming out of Hillcrest onto that M13 for a slow trip passing that crash on your way to Kloof this morning. Cape Town R300's busy, a crash at Hindle Road in front of Delft going northbound. Once you get past that, you stay in traffic from Stellenbosch Arterial up to the Van Riebeek exit. There's also a broken down truck in front of Khayelitsha into outbound at Spine Road. That's heavy back to the R300. And Baden Powell at the bottom of Khayelitsha closed at Monwabisi, closed at Sandy Corner due to thick sand. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning to you once again, Zai. Banyana versus Mozambique. The stakes are high.
And you know what? With Maud Khumalo at the helm, I think she's about to give the Mozambicans a masterclass. I hope. Because
I like that.
well, they must be ready to last for this Banyana Blitz, all happening in Gqeberha 2024 COSAFA Women's Championship, and we're up against Mozambique. Now we know we've already done one better than last year by getting out of the group, but now we need to go all the way to restore some pride in this tournament, and Coach Maud Khumalo admits it's a do or die against Mozambique.
Looking at how the players have carried themselves until this stage. In the camp, the mood is okay, everything is positive, mentally and physically, we don't have a lot of issues. So for us, it's more of us knowing what is at stake, and then we've planned a game in a sense of which we don't want to concede early and find ourselves chasing the game. It's just to be more patient, and as we know that is the do or die game. Yeah, so it's a knockout stage. It's another phase of the tournament, so we have to up the game as well and then showcase that it's a different phase of the tournament. It's no longer a group stage thing. So the players, they understand that, and then how we planned it, it's more of us continue playing the way we play, be more disciplined in every aspect of the field.
Now, kickoff for South Africa taking on Mozambique is at 3 p.m. at the Isaac Wolfson Stadium in Gqeberha. The winner will face the victorious team in either the other semi-final, which is happening between Malawi and Zambia. Now, closer to home, Mamelodi Sundowns coach Manqoba Nciti reacted differently to his team's impressive 3-0 victory over Cape Town City in the Betway Premiership last night. Despite the title holders' success at Loftus, Nciti praised his counterpart Eric Tinkler.
First, I must commend the good work that Eric is doing at Cape Town City. I think less is said about the positive stories that one sees as a coach. I think he has introduced a lot of youngsters who are really doing very well. And his team plays, in my opinion, the best football in the league. Very, very good speed of play, good movements of the ball, a lot of mobility, and I felt it's important for me to commend his good work, because sometimes when you did not win, it looks like you did not do anything. But the truth is, I think they are playing some of the best football, and I like to watch their team. And I think I watched 5 of their matches because they were exciting to watch, I must say.
That's Mamelodi Sundowns coach Manqoba Nciti here on the morning brief. Let's go to the other match. Magesi squandering their 2-goal lead to draw 2-2 with Kaizer Chiefs at the Peter Mokaba Stadium in Polokwane. Golden Arrows Supersport United playing out to a goalless draw, all happening at Mpumalanga Stadium. And cricket action, the Proteas making waves in the Test series against Bangladesh after posting a formidable 575 for 6 declared. Our bowlers are taking charge. Bangladesh in serious trouble. They're currently on 113 for the loss of 8 wickets. Kagiso Rabada and Keshav Maharaj on fire, bagging key wickets. Bangladesh trail by 462 runs, with only the likes of Mominul Haq holding his ground at 54 not out. And finally, golf. Jonathan Broomheads, he claimed the lead in the first round of the Sunshine Tour Blue Label Challenge yesterday. The tournament is played over Sun City's 2 golf course, and Broomhead played the Gary Player Country Club course on day 1, opening with a solid 19 points to give him a clear 8-point lead over second place Nikhil Rama and Kyle De Beer. Rama played the Lost City golf course, while De Beer was on the Gary Player Country Club course. A modified points-based scoring system is used for this event, whereby par is 0 points, a birdie is 2 points, an eagle 5 points, and an albatross 8 points. That's your wrap of sport. We'll have more top of the hour for SAFM. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Ndauling Lechela once again. Ndauling, in social media and digital economy news, Meta is increasing its spend on AI infrastructure. What's that all about?
Now, Julius, before we get to those numbers, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Do you use or have you tried using any of these AI offerings?
Only when I was instructed to use ChatGPT for an assignment. Only when it was required, okay? I didn't just take my assignment and say, hey, ChatGPT, write this for me. No, it was a requirement.
Listen, I wasn't throwing you in the deep end. I just find it interesting how we talk about this AI boom, but we don't actually, put people to it. And what I find particularly interesting with the tech giants is how they integrate these AI features. And with Meta, it's really difficult to miss. You log on to WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, and it's right at the top there. There's an Ask Meta AI feature. Now, to boost these offerings, Meta is spending big bucks on building data centers. During the third quarter, the group increased its capital expenditure from $37 billion to $38 billion. While this strengthens its focus on AI, it does also lift costs. In the reporting period, total expenses jumped 14%. Now, Wall Street investors have expressed concerns that tech giants, including Meta and Alphabet, are overspending on infrastructure without generating immediate returns. Meta's CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, addressed these concerns in July in an interview with Bloomberg, acknowledging the possibility of overbuilding, but he said the risks of underinvesting outweigh the costs. Zuckerberg reiterated his commitment to significant infrastructure investments in yesterday's earnings call. Meta AI and Llama are seeing rapid adoption with over 500 million monthly active users. Now, the update on Meta's capex comes alongside its earnings report. The group delivered a 19% jump in revenue, largely driven by the success of Meta's apps, including WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook.
In other news, steel producers are pushing back against ArcelorMittal's bid to ditch scrap export tax. What's that all about?
Now, a battle is unfolding in South Africa's local, or rather the South Africa's steel industry, as a number of electric steel producers have formed an alliance pushing back against AMSA's calls to abolish the export tax on scrap metal. The coalition includes Score Metals, Cape Gate, Veer Steel Mills, Unicut Iron and Steel, For Steel, and Kucha Steel. And they are saying that scrapping the tax would cripple smaller, environmentally conscious steel producers who account for 75% of South Africa's long steel production capacity. Now, this would lead to job losses and undermine the government's efforts towards industrial diversification and sustainability in that sector. The group of steel makers say this move favors AMSA's pollutive production process over greener alternatives. Now, the scrap metal industry employs about 350,000 people and contributes about 15 billion to the local GDP. AMSA, however, opposes the tax, citing sufficient local supply and arguing it only benefits electric steel producers. The coalition counters that AMSA's poor financial performance is not due to the export tax, but rather other factors. The group of steelmakers say AMSA already benefits from government protection in the flat steel sector, holding a local monopoly and enjoying tariffs that protected from lower priced imports. The coalition urges the government to address steel oversupply, develop a fair and long-term policy safeguarding all industry participants.
Yeah, not you using acronyms so early in the morning. I had to ask AI, who's AMSA? Lastly, Dowling, a recap of the markets here at home, in Asia, in the United States.
So kicking things off in Asia, traders unpacking the Bank of Japan's decision to stand pat on rates, this being the first monetary policy move since the general elections took place. Traders are also assessing factory activity numbers from China. The PMI is back in expansionary territory, further suggesting that Beijing's recent stimulus measures are working. With that, the Shanghai index is up 0.2%, while the Japanese Nikkei trades in negative territory, down 0.75%. Meanwhile, in Wall Street, futures are in the red, adding on to yesterday's losses. Investors are now eyeing Amazon and Apple's earnings being released later today. And then back at home, traders digesting all the international news while also unpacking the first midterm budget under the GNU. Markets in the red following that statement. The performance not necessarily a reflection of that statement, but rather a reflection of the risk-off environment in equity markets. The rand also struggling to recover, still trading very close to that 770 mark to the dollar.
All right, thank you for that. We'll catch you one more time after 8:30. That's Ndauling Lechela watching business, economics, as well as the markets here at home and around the world for you here on The Morning Brief.
Are you blowing your paycheck on car insurance every month? Monica, 39 from Three Rivers, pays just 1,515 Rand a month for her 2018 BMW 320i.
None of the insurance companies has come near to the price I'm paying. I am happy at our insurance. I'm going nowhere.
SMS out to 30754 now for a quick quote that could save you hundreds every month. You'll also find out about included benefits like panic assistance and help it out 24-hour roadside assistance. Yusuf, 45 from Tegadal, pays just 700 Rand a month for his 2021 VW Polo.
Help it out. Took the family up to go and see the snow and I got stuck. The service was quick, even though it was in a very remote area. Absolutely phenomenal service from our insurance.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and limits apply. Premiums are risk profile dependent and reviewed annually. Client comments do not constitute financial advice.
Channel 8 declattered, recharged and flourishing you on Afternoon Express, Tuesday at 6 p.m. on S3. As Coach Lucia Drummond offers practical steps to a less is more lifestyle. HR specialist Uthato Mabelane shares key skills to revitalize your career. Plus, Overnight Oats is the perfect after-gym recharger. That's Afternoon Express, this Tuesday at 6 p.m. only on S3. Repeat Sundays at 8:30 a.m.
Did you know? October marks the 19th anniversary of Transport Month, a vital initiative by the National and Provincial Departments of Transport. This year's campaign highlights the progress being made to build better infrastructure, create jobs, and boost an inclusive, sustainable economy, all while enhancing service delivery.
Doing more together, building better infrastructure, and delivering efficient service through collaboration. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
Africa Update on SAFM.
For that, let's say good morning to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Good morning, Raz. So yesterday, Botswana went to the elections and now the tallying of the votes is underway.
Refreshing morning, Thulas, Jumbo Africa, Busele Thulas. Indeed, what we are talking now is the counting is still trickling in Thulas. Last night at 10 p.m., there was starting of the counting that we are expecting the election results tomorrow. That's what came from the Electoral Commission to give us preliminary outcome of what has happened in Botswana yesterday. Even if the opposition, Duma Boko, has raised concern to us about the exercise where they were still lamenting on the fair and credibility of these ballots in Gaborone. Remember, to us, for a party to win, they need at least 31 seats in parliament to be declared as the winner. Last year, in 2019 actually, we saw the ruling party got 38 seats after contesting 57 seats. So we'll wait and see, Thulas, about the election outcome. As Gaborone says, before the end of the weekend, Thulas, we will know what is the indication of the final results of Gaborone decide.
So that's Botswana, but the situation in Mozambique is growing increasingly concerning, Sipho, since the elections took place. 10 people shot dead.
This is according to the Human Rights Watch report that came and confirmed that since the 18th of October until the 26th, they have recorded 73 cases of shootings, resulting in 10 of people losing their lives. You have a Human Rights Commission in Mozambique, Thulas. We're expecting them to also be vigilant rather than receiving a Human Rights Report watch. What is also said, Thulas, is that others are saying there are further demonstrations that might be held in Mozambique, led by Venancio Mondlane from Podemos party that are still questioning this election. Remember, they've already lodged a petition, and like I said, Thulas, we might be sitting for 60 days of this electoral dispute in Mozambique before the inauguration of Daniel Chapo as the leader of Frelimo.
Now, here's a country whose election I covered many, many years ago, Senegal. They are going to parliamentary elections.
They are going to parliamentary elections next month, Thulas, on the 17th of November, but this was pushed by the newly elected young president, Diomaye Faye, when there was a tension around the passing of the budget. He dissolved parliament, Thulas, because the parliamentarians, because it is a coalition parliament, they could not agree on the passing of the budget. Then he pushed it back to say that let's go rather for the elections of the parliament. And we have influential President Macky Sall, Abdullah Wade, who are also others are saying their coalitions are contesting for the seats in this parliament. Others are saying this is a test for Faye to have his parliamentary mandate through these elections in November 17 next month.
And you and I have spoken about the tense relationship that Rwanda has with France since the genocide in 1994. And I see that France has now, prosecuted this doctor and sentenced him.
Eugene Ramukua, age 65, was sentenced for complicity in genocide. This is the seventh trial that relates to genocide since 1994 that has appeared before courts in Paris. And this has shown that it was a 4-week trial which witnesses were brought as far as Rwanda to come and testify against this doctor. Hence, he was given a 27-year sentence for his role in the 1994 genocide. Remember, it's 30 years of the Rwanda genocide, but this doctor was only arrested in 2010 when he was working as a doctor in northern France at that time. So this is a long-standing case of the Rwanda genocide between the Tutsi and the Hutu, where you still have transitional justice of the Gajaga that happened, but you still have foreign courts that are still prosecuting and investigating those who were involved in the genocide.
It's a pity I can't carry a note, Wenasipo. Otherwise, I would burst into song right now. Your historical archives, I would be singing for this great South African.
And he's 75, by the way, and it's a vivid listener of SAFM. We are talking of a political activist, senior counsel, former TRC commissioner. He went to Banjul at some point, Arusha, to be one of the judges. We're talking about Butle Dumisa Ntsebeze, who's part of Babasa, also Thulas, who's celebrating his birthday today. One of the great guys who questioned the TRC processes on amnesty. And I know he was given some cases last year to look around the review of the TRC unit within MPA. And like I said to you, happy birthday to our political activist and senior counsellor, Ntate Dumisa Ntsebeze.
Indeed. Happy birthday, Brady, as we call him. Advocate Dumisa Ntsebeze was born on this day, on the 31st of October, 1949. Sipho Mantula there with your Africa update.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Heavy traffic coming into Sandton today. There's a crash on Winnie Mandela at Hurlingham, just down by Matty Avenue. So Winnie Mandela from Bryanston High School is heavy. And what you get there is a knock-on. Peter Place coming through is heavy. Republic Road out of Randburg is heavy out towards Winnie Mandela. And, of course, a lot of traffic just diverts off Winnie Mandela and takes Ballyclare around the back end to Sandton. So that's heavy again this morning. Crash on the M1 North going up to Malabongwe. Very heavy from Bayers Nordia territory. The Mike 1 today from Boyson's jam-packed through towards Parktown. And if you come off the M12 at Clip River Drive, there's a really big queue of traffic up through the Southdale area. Pretoria East, Solomon Mashlangu, Linwood Road, a lot of congestion around that particular junction, and another crash, high crash impact zone this time of morning. It is the N14, Krugersdorp Highway between the R55, Pretoria West exit and Bruckfontein interchange. So that traffic on the Krugersdorp Highway towards Pretoria stays heavily backed up. Durban side, earlier crash at Hillcrest on the M13 out of the way. There is a lane restriction on Victoria Embankment going in near the Yacht Club, so that's having a ripple effect back onto the M4 Southern Freeway coming in towards the city centre. It's all very heavily backed up because it's so congested on the Esplanade area. Cape Town Baden-Powell Drive stays closed at Momobisi, bottom of Khayelitsha. That's causing a lot of extra traffic, just diverting around that one. Stationary truck N2 outbound in front of Khayelitsha before Spine Road. That's a heavy queue, almost back towards the airport runway is where you'll feel the effects of that. Mitchell's Plain, very slow getting out of the area. The M7, the AZ Berman routes very slow. Also, as we saw yesterday, a bit of traffic just backing up on the R300 going into Mitchell's Plain towards that AZ Berman and Stock Road exit. And don't forget all the roadworks between Botrafia and Caledon. There's about 3 sets of stop-go controls, and you will feel like you're waiting forever to get through that. More works between Albertinia and Mossel Bay at least 2 locations with stop-goes as well. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
What's going on, everybody? You want to catch the Psalmist, 2nd of November, 7:30 is all the red carpet action. We don't come through looking like that when the night arrives. 8 p.m. main show only on SABC 1. Yeah, get what's called in.
Celebrate 30 years of music with the Summer Awards, Saturday 2 November. Yellow carpet starts at 7:30 p.m. and the main awards at 8 p.m. on SABC 1.
Did you know the National Department of Transport has allocated 7.7 billion rand in the form of bus subsidies for the 2024-25 financial year, which is a 4.5% increase from the previous financial year. Since the inception of the taxi recapitalization program, 83,712 old taxi vehicles have been scrapped and 5.9 billion rand paid to taxi operators. The National Learner Transport Program carries 707,053 learners and provides transport to learners to access schools. National Bicycle Program Shovagalula has distributed bicycles to 122,307 learners since its inception in 2001 as part of the National Learner Transport Policy. In the current MTSF period, the department has distributed 32,307 bicycles. Doing more together, building better infrastructure and delivering efficient service through collaboration. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
7 minutes to 8 here on the Morning Brief. Let's shift our attention to this while we have money on our minds. Cyber attacks on financial institutions are on the rise globally. Because of this, experts say it is important for financial institutions to protect themselves from the escalating frequency and sophistication of cyber attacks. Due to advances in technology, experts say institutions can use artificial intelligence for privacy and security measures in the financial services industry. Let's bring into the conversation Prajlin Naidu, who is Communications, Media and Technology Partner at consulting firm Oliver Wyman. Good morning to you, Prajlin, and I've got to thank you for your time. So the phrase artificial intelligence did not come up once in the speech of the finance minister yesterday. I imagine that it's covered somewhere, science and technology and other issues of security, etc. Do you believe, though, that there should be a pointed focus on cybersecurity and on artificial intelligence and its implications for cybersecurity and security of financial institutions?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. I think the medium-term budget speech yesterday was probably as expected with very few surprises. And I'm glad the GNU has kept its focus on inclusive growth and poverty alleviation and professionalizing the public service. But yes, I think it was interesting that there was no mention of new technologies. I would assume that the Department of Science will be taking that on. But I think one area that was a little surprising to me was the decision not to fund the education shortfall, which means that the department will need to find much more efficient ways to deliver education outcomes to learners. And one of the ways they can do this is by using digital technologies like AI to make teachers a lot more effective in what they do, provide learners with new ways of learning, and helping them prepare for the future. So while it wasn't specifically talked about, I think it will be weaved throughout the different initiatives that government will need to undertake.
What are the possibilities of these new technologies, AI enhancing cybersecurity and the security of financial institutions for helping South Africa get off the FATF grey list? You will have seen in the budget speech they talk about having completed, I think, 16 of the 22 tasks that would help us to get back out of the grey list.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this concern around AI and cybersecurity is quite valid. Our colleagues at the Oliver Wyman Forum did a piece of research earlier this year globally, including South Africa, trying to understand how white-collar workers are using Gen AI, for example. And what we found really surprising was that 95% of the South Africans we surveyed said that they were using Gen AI at least weekly, which was much higher than the global average of 85 and even the US average of 60. So it seems South Africans are clearly using these technologies. And with any new technologies, as they come along, people will try to break it, and threat actors will definitely see this as a new attack surface. So it's going to be important for not just financial services organizations, but I think all large organizations to really think about how they're going to protect customers when they're using AI. And kind of two areas where we've seen a lot of this happening is in the phishing space. So generally, when you get those emails that try to phish information out of you, they're generally not very well written, and you can sometimes pick them up. But now with Gen AI, threat actors are using them to create highly credible, convincing phishing messages with better social engineering. And the messages are so believable that it will cause people to accidentally share their passwords.
Oh, that's a bit scary, because that's been the tell, right? When you receive one of these emails, you can sort of tell that there's no way.
Yes.
There's just no way my bank would send me an email that's so badly written. So you're saying one of the threats that people should be looking out for, institutions should be looking out for, is that possibility that the abuse of generative AI is now sort of enhancing the ability of these scamsters to do that.
Exactly. And look, I think there are ways that we can address this by moving away from passwords to pass keys, which is a move in the security industry. So secrets are stored in your personal device and not in your head. So they're not visible when you're kind of logging in and making them non-shareable.
Right. Lastly, talk to me about, while we talk about the economy and seeking inclusive growth and job creation, are we now grappling as South Africa with the potential of AI and new technologies to create entire new industries and transform, traditional industries as well, in a positive way?
Absolutely. I think as with all new technologies since the steam engine, they've generally created more jobs than they've destroyed. I think what's different this time with artificial intelligence is that it probably impacts almost every single area of our lives in business. So I think the impact is going to be fundamentally different to what we've seen in past technologies. And it's going to be really important, I think, for government and the private sector to work together to make sure that these changes to the industries don't negatively impact the work that we're doing to alleviate poverty and creating inclusive growth, especially by focusing on things like upskilling from a very early age, so people can start to get involved in the AI industries and AI jobs, which for South Africa could be very similar to mobile, where we were able to skip the whole landline thing. If people are able to use English words to become programmers in the future, that could help a whole new generation of South Africans enter the technology space.
All right. Thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That's Prejlin Naidu, who is Communications, Media and Technology Partner at the consulting firm Oliver Wyman. Bringing us to 8 a.m., let's check in with Mudubi Makhalimele with the latest news. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
Thanks to Thulas. The top stories, a diamond investment scam case is back in court today, and more reaction to the midterm budget statement. A very good morning. Diamond dealer Louis Liebenberg, his wife Desiree, and 4 co-accused are expected to apply for bail when their case resumes in the Bronkhorstspruit Magistrates Court in Gauteng. They face charges of fraud, money laundering, theft, and racketeering. Thulasizwe reports.
Initially, 9 suspects were arrested in Gauteng and Northwest in connection with the multi-million rand diamond scam. However, 3 of the accused were granted bail ranging from 20 to 100,000 rand each during the accused first court appearance last Thursday. Liebenberg allegedly advertised unpolished diamonds on social media and invited potential investors to invest in his business with a promise of lucrative returns. Investors were allegedly scammed out of more than 4 billion rand. Thulasizwe Simelane, SABC News.
Political parties have mixed reactions to Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana's midterm budget policy statement delivered in Parliament yesterday. The IFP says as a GNU partner, it finds Godongwana's announcement on relief for municipalities very significant. Here's the party's Nhlanhla Khatebe.
We believe that there is quite a number of positives that we can draw out of it. Infrastructure was mentioned as being reprioritized. The minister again allocated 2.1 billion for disaster relief. We also had commitment that out of 70% of municipalities that had applied for debt relief were approved.
In its reaction, the UDM says infrastructure development problems cannot be addressed without dealing with the challenge of state-owned enterprises first. The party's chief whip, Ngabayo Mzikwankwa.
The other issue which we feel is important is that you cannot embark on a proper infrastructure-led growth without addressing the governance challenges that we experience at SOEs. In the past, when we doled out money to SOEs, we never really actually made sure that there was consequence management in the event that the conditions which were put in place were not met.
Police in the Eastern Cape say they are in the process of upgrading the police station in BG, under which the Mqhekezweni village falls. On Tuesday, Chieftainess Nogcinile Mtikhaga and another woman were gunned down and 5 grade 12 learners raped in the village. The Provincial Community Safety Department has confirmed that police are questioning a person of interest in connection with the rapes. Provincial Police Commissioner Nomthethelimene says an upgraded police station will serve the residents of the vast area much better.
We have prioritized the Biki police station. As I'm saying, we are in a process of upgrading it to a full kennel police station. But we also have added 15 members now in July. That is the group that came out of July. With the intake that we have currently, we are still going to add. Awaiting the upgrading. In the process of awaiting the upgrading, we are going to add members so that by the time head office approves upgrading, we would know then that we do have additional members to police Biki.
And the funeral service for 6-year-old Amantle Samani will be held at the Orlando East Communal Hall in Soweto today. She was found murdered and allegedly raped inside a shack near her home on Monday last week. A 24-year-old Mozambican national was arrested and appeared in court on charges of rape, murder, kidnapping, and being in the country illegally. The case was postponed to tomorrow for a bail application. Recapping the top story at 8 o'clock, Diamond dealer Louis Liebenberg, his wife Desiree, and 4 co-accused are expected to apply for bail when their case resumed in the Bronkhorstspruit Magistrates Court in Gauteng. For SAFM News, Kimudupi Makhalemele.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today, SMS CAR to 43187. What's the hype about Outsurance Essential and how is it different to any other car insurance out there? Outsurance Essential is specifically designed and priced for older cars. After an accident, claims are paid in cash, so you can choose the panel beater you want to use. And now Outsurance also offers motor warranty for mechanical and electrical breakdowns. Get saving with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rand. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Crash Danton on Winnie Mandela at Hurlingham. Big delays out of Bryanston and Randburg areas as you make your way through to Santon, Ballyclare, taking a lot of the spillover of avoidance traffic on that route through. So multiple routes under pressure. R21, the roadwork still in place at the R25 Bupsfontein exit. So with the queues leaving the airport on your way to Pretoria. And a crash on the Pretoria-bound track of the N14 Krugersdorp Highway, halfway between the R55 Pretoria West exit and Brockfontein interchange. Stays busy through there. Durban roadworks on the Esplanade this morning, so a little bit of an extra wait to get off the M4 Southern Freeway for a turn on towards Victoria Embankment. Cape Town Baden-Powell still closed at Khayelitsha, very sandy at Sandy Corner at Monwabisi, and that truck stationary on the N2 out of town before Spine Road at Khayelitsha. That traffic just continues to go back towards the airport runway, and if you're heading into Mitchell's Plain, R300 is quite slow moving down to the Stock Road exit as you come off into the construction zone. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's cricket action. Kagiso Rabada's 5-wicket haul, putting the Proteas on top against Bangladesh in the second test. And we also have soccer action. Banyana, they are facing off against Mozambique. That's in the 2024 COSAFA Women's Championship. Details around 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
8 minutes after 8 on this Thursday. It's good to have you with us. This is the Morning Brief on SAFM. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. Well, over the last 2 hours, we've really focused mostly on what came out of the budget, medium-term budget policy statement, and the picture that was painted by the finance minister in terms of our finances, where things stand, as well as what the spending priorities will be going forward, the situation around debt, but also we've done quite a bit of analysis in terms of what the implications are, for instance, of the revision of the growth expectations from 1.3% earlier on in the year to 1.1%. What we are spending is increasing 10 billion rand more than what had been budgeted earlier on in the year, and that goes to various priorities, including, of course, what has been spent on responding to disasters. You and I have been talking about, whenever there's a disaster, state of disaster, or those incidents, inclement weather affecting communities and destroying infrastructure, government is having to respond to that, and that's showing in terms of what has been spent. But also the issue of the social relief of distress grant also being thrown in there. SARS collecting a bit less than what they would have liked, 22 billion rand less, simply because the good people at Eskom have been able to keep the lights on as long as they have this year, with the result that, people are not importing those aids that you and I used to import a lot of during the height of load shedding. So that's one of the conversations that has resonated with me. But also looking forward in this hour to bringing you the conversation I had with Advocate Tembeka Ngukaitobi, who shared some insights about his thinking around the Government of National Unity and its potential in terms of driving land reform. He says actually, while people expect that it will be a setback, he says that scapegoating the Government of National Unity. The failures go back to 1994 when the government was led by the ANC, and actually says if you look at the documents, the founding documents of the GNU, it has the promise that it could, if applied properly, drive land restitution and land reform. But also he's talking about that false choice that he says is being given to beneficiaries to choose between land and money. He says people need both. There's no reason why people should not be getting both. So that conversation, we have it lined up for you within this hour. But of course, we want you to be a part of this conversation, and you can do that by giving us a call. The number to dial is 086 000 2032. I'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes. Those will be on 061 410 4107. This is SAFM, Conversations That Move Us. The third hour of the Thursday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
My business is very stressful. Construction and plumbing, anything can go wrong. The reason I chose Outsurance because they align with my vision with regards to customer service. The fact that they won the award for Best Business Insurance makes me feel like I'm in the right hands.
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Southern African Queens are back on the battlefield. 14 teams will tackle each other in the search of the ultimate glory. This is the Hollywood Bets COSAFA Women's Championship 2024. Witness the great contest by regional football queens from 22 October to 2 November 2024. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com.
16 teams of Mzansi Africa's Elite League are back to the battlefield. Amanda Masha. They all believe ukuthi kuzoba right, kube bright, as they navigate the path to the final. This is the second edition of the Carlin Knockout Cup. Fagukesi. Catch the unmatched passion and drama of Ipola Lasemzansi, the Carlin Knockout Cup, live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let's take some of your calls now. Let's start with the themes that are coming out of the medium-term budget policy statement. And I imagine, Kaiser, in Mpumalanga, that's where you are coming from. And you want to talk about no one taking rural people seriously. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and good morning to the fellow listeners. Thulasizwe, I am quite frankly concerned about how we are the rural people. You would have learned that recently Mpumalanga was, knocked by storms, especially in the places like Akonok.
Yeah, Bushbuck Ridge.
Yes, Bushbuck Ridge. Thulasizwe, when you guys report something like we are now 100 days without load shedding, I can promise you in communities like around Akonok, we experiencing load shedding every day at 5, except for weekends. As I'm speaking to you now, these are people who doesn't have food, who rely on 350 to get food. Since Sunday, these communities, we don't have electricity for 5 days now. So imagine with the little money that you bought your fish, that you bought your pork, which are the cheapest, maybe protein. And those are food that cannot last even 2 days outside the refrigerator. And think about it, ESCOM is a national department. You know, if you have got disasters like this, you can borrow from people from Nelspruit, Limpopo to come and assist so that you can bail the rural people as soon as possible. But that is something that we are not seeing. And I'm concerned because, we are the ones who are pulled whenever time to vote. We are the one who push, the leading government forward. But when it comes to service delivery, we are the last to receive.
Kaiser, thank you for that. All I can say is I'm very familiar with what you're talking about. I grew up in a rural area, and that's exactly the experience. That's exactly the experience across the country where, it does seem that responsiveness is just not there. And you are not the first one to talk about this. I think I took a call last week from somewhere in KZN where the caller was talking about exactly that same issue, that if there was a power cut somewhere in Sandton, there would be so much noise such that there would be responsiveness. But in rural areas, it can go on for days before someone responds. ESCOM, you should be attending to those situations, particularly in the wake of storms in areas like Bushbuck Ridge. You should be attending to those. Let me take a call from Lala, who is in Limpopo. Lala, you want to speak to me about the unemployment rate. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you, and good morning to your listeners. Yesterday, when I listened to most of the political parties who opposed the budget speech, most of them, they spoke about the issue of unemployment rate, that the current measures that the Minister of Finance is putting, they will never solve the problems with the unemployment rate. But I want us to look on this thing differently. Here in front of me, I'm looking on Malawi24.com. In Malawi, on the 23rd of March in 2021, the Minister of Labor was asked in the parliament about the issue of unemployment, and he said the government cannot tolerate foreign workers who are taking up jobs that can be done by Malawians. But if the same statement can be said by our Minister of Labor in South Africa, it will be translated or interpreted as xenophobia. But in South Africa, we are creating jobs. Even in South Africa can be a construction site tomorrow. I will tell you that this country, the employment rate cannot be solved because the day when we create jobs, then the jobs will be given people from other countries. I will give you an example. Just go around in the members of parliament, the likes of Julius Malema and the others. Go and check in their companies. Who are the people who are working in their companies? Who are the people who are building their own swimming pools?
Lala, thank you for that. That's Lala there talking about the element of migration, controlled, uncontrolled, legal and illegal migration, and how it factors in the conversation around unemployment. It's the same theme that you want to address this morning. Vuyelwa in Parktown, good morning to you.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Thanks for taking my call. You know what? I think you as media, because I also belong to the fraternity, you need to research on things. Don't preach propaganda. This story or phenomena of creating jobs is a scam. Mm-hmm. I attended a month ago at Sheraton Hotel. There was a conference there, Africa-China relations. Professor David Munyai was there, and Professor Pilan Dube, I think, is the one organizing it. And we had the Chinese ambassador. There was a speaker there from Algeria who actually stated this thing that some people will never see a job in their lifetime. So this is the language the colonizers used when they took the land of our forefathers and said they were going to create jobs for them, or at least they were taking the world. All what we need to do now is for people to demand. We have to demand banks and whoever is involved in this money issue. Right. Give us money, we start businesses. There is no job creation that people are coming here, there, doing PR jobs, they will create jobs. There is no job creation. And lastly...
No, Vuyelwa, I've got to move on. I've got quite a number of calls. Thank you there. That's Vuyelwa out in Parktown talking about issues of job creation. In fact, on that theme, let me just take a quick voice note on issues to do with the economy.
Good morning, SFM. I'm just listening to the economist from... Stellenbosch give his analysis of why the economy isn't growing. Unfortunately, public-private partnerships are not the solution. They haven't proven to be the solution because private companies do not build public infrastructure because it's not immediately profitable. That's why the government, the taxpayers' money should be going into building infrastructure for businesses to develop. And they must make it easier they must break up the supply chain so that smaller businesses can have access to products, to engaging in the economy in a more progressive way. So the point here is that the economics hasn't worked that we've been using, and this is something that has to change.
Yeah, thank you for that. That conversation earlier on was about where do you spend whatever little you have in the government coffers? Is it consumption spending or is it spending on capital formation and infrastructure and the likes? Government says that is changing. That picture is slowly changing, saying that economic development, for example, is going to start picking up as an expenditure line item. Not the Department of Economic Development, but programs that have to do with economic development, including infrastructure.
South African Airways is expanding in the DRC. We now offer direct flights from Johannesburg to Lubumbashi, the heart of the DRC's mining hub. Our convenient arrival time allows seamless connections to key regions like Ndola and the Copper Belt, opening up new growth opportunities. Traders can benefit from our generous baggage allowance, while SAA's superior aircraft belly capacity ensures your cargo reaches most parts of Congo on the same day. Book now at flysaa.com or contact your travel agent. South African Airways, connecting Africa to the world, one flight at a time.
Awesome Friday! VS Gaming Weekly is back on your screen, bigger and better with more exhilaration. Draw near as we shine a spotlight on the world of gaming to bring you everything from gaming news, the latest tech, tournaments, players' profiles, and celebrity interviews. Get the latest in gaming news and trends, as well as tips and tricks from some of South Africa's favorite pro gamers. Witness Telkom VS Gaming Weekly every Friday at 2 p.m. on SABC1, with repeats every Sunday at 11:30 a.m. on SABC2. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The South African government has implemented economic reforms to address challenges in energy, logistics, and the visa regime. The national rail policy is aimed at modernizing the rail sector, and the reduction of water use license backlogs has attracted 24.4 billion rands in investment. The recently gazetted visa system regime will attract critical skills and investment whilst boosting tourism to ignite the economy and enable job creation. These reforms demonstrate considerable progress in transforming South Africa's economy and addressing the binding constraints on growth. Building and transforming the economy. A message brought to you by Government Communications.
The Science of Life on SAFM.
To this now, a Chinese spacecraft with a 3-person crew, including the country's first female space engineer, has docked at the country's space station after a journey of more than 6 hours. The crew will use the country's space station as a base for 6 months to conduct experiments and carry out spacewalks. China says it is gathering experience and intelligence for its eventual mission to put someone on the moon by 2030. Let's take that conversation forward. I'm joined by Martin Snow, who is Research Chair in Space Weather at the South African National Space Agency. So these are major developments, are they not, Mr. Snow? China and its advances in space exploration.
Oh, yes, certainly. It's kind of amazing how quickly China has moved in space. In U.S. and other countries, a program like this takes 10 years to develop, and seems like China has done it in half that time. So yeah, this is great.
Tell me about Tiangong space station. The one that people would obviously talk about is the ISS, International Space Station, but little is known about Tiangong space station, and that's where they are docking for 6 months.
That's true. The Chinese station, I have trouble pronouncing it, is...
So do I. I'm winging it. Say it with confidence.
Right. So it's much smaller than the International Space Station, but the ISS has been up there for a long time and has slowly grown over the years. It's actually reaching the end of its life and will no longer be going before too long. So this new Chinese one, I think they have 4 modules, and the ISS has 16. So you can see it's a lot smaller. I was reading that they do have plans to expand their station to 6 or 8 modules maybe, but right now it's doing its job. A crew of 3. I think that there are already some Chinese people. I think they call them taikonauts. Are on the station, and they'll relieve that crew with these new 3 people.
And they are talking about sending a person to the moon by 2030. What do we know about that? Going further into space, as far as the Chinese are concerned. Of course, the NASA as well is also making the same kind of plans to send a person to the moon, or some people to the moon once again after many decades of not going there. So, what do we know about the Chinese efforts to land on the moon?
Well, I mean, based on their recent successes, you think, well, 2030 is not very many years away. That's a lot of progress in a short time. But, they've got this station up and their rocketry program going very quickly. So, I have to just go on their press releases that say they plan on being there in another 6 or 7 years. It certainly seems possible. I know the U.S. also has revived the mission to put people on the moon. I think that's one of the versions of the Artemis mission, and it's an interesting time to be a scientist.
And is there a sense that this is now shaping up to be a space race between the United States and China? A few years ago, the president of China, Xi Jinping, declared, quote, to explore the vast cosmos, develop the space industry, and build China into a space power is our eternal dream. And reporting there suggests that, the NASA chief, Bill Nelson, said the U.S. and China are, quote unquote, in effect in a race to return to the moon, with some perceptions that there could be threats there between the two.
Yeah, I mean, if we look back to the 1960s or something, when there was a space race between the U.S. and the Soviet Union, now Russia, that was actually good for everyone. That it was a goal that you could then devote resources to developing space technology that then helped technology throughout daily life. Now we're sitting here with cell phones and everything. And so I don't know that a space race between China and the West is a bad thing. The West does get nervous because they don't. It's a new player. They don't know exactly what China might plan to do. Their military and their space industry are teammates, but that's actually true in all the countries, right? The U.S. NASA is not a military organization, but they have contracts with military contractors and so on. So, I'm optimistic that this will all be a peaceful race to the moon, and I'm looking forward to it.
So, to use the words of John F. Kennedy, before this decade is up, will we land, well, not a person on the moon?
Will they, or will
generally
the US,
humanity?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
It is kind of interesting to think, well, we were able to do this in the 1969. Why is it so hard to do it again? But things have changed with regards to how safe it needs to be and so on. So it's an interesting technological challenge, and we learn so much when we develop a program like this that that technology then percolates throughout the rest of our lives.
It really does. Thank you for that. Martin Snow is Research Chair in Space Weather at the South African National Space Agency. Let's check in now with Modupi Makhalemele with the latest news headlines.
Thank you very much, Thulas, and a very good morning. In your headlines at 8:30, a Limpopo cop accused of killing 9 civilians for insurance claims amounting to 10 million rand is expected to continue to apply for bail in the Polokwane Magistrates Court. Diamond dealer Louis Liebenberg, his wife, and 4 co-accused are expected to apply for bail when their case resumes in the Bronkhorstspruit Magistrates Court in Gauteng. And members of the Top 6 Taxi Organization will march to the office of the Mayor of the City of Joburg in Braamfontein this morning. Details of these and other stories coming up 9 o'clock.
SAFM. guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still very heavy getting into Sandton this morning. A crash on Winnie Mandela at Hurlingham, backing up Winnie Mandela, backing up Republic Road and Peter Place, trying to join in, and a lot of traffic just diverting around Ballyclare, causing some delays there as well. Crash on the N14, the Krugersdorp Highway between the R55 Pretoria West exit and the N1 Brockfontein. If you're on your way up to Pretoria, coming in from Diepsloot, that's a heavy queue. Durban out of Pinetown, the M13 through Stapleton Road towards Paradise Valley stays slow. Bit of traffic, Pietermaritzburg, just coming down towards sort of New England Road. That's probably a breakdown or roadworks there, just on your way to Durban. It is quite slow. Cape Town, Marine Drive, heavy. Milnerton through Boundary Road. The N2 outbound is really badly backed up. A stationary truck at Spine Road. It's been there since before 6 o'clock this morning. So in front of Khayelitsha, you drop down to a single lane. The N2 outbound backs from almost the airport runway. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, I have absolutely no adjectives that can truly capture Kagiso Rabada and his performance out in Bangladesh. What's happening?
I think he's got rocket fuel in his veins because he is 5 wickets already. Bangladesh are in, well, I mean, they're looking lost. That's all I can say.
And the reason I'm astounded is because just a few days ago, we were talking about him taking what?
6 wickets?
Yeah. So he's on a roll.
This guy is unstoppable.
Sure.
Unstoppable is Kagiso Rabada. He's the star of the show as the Proteas are in complete control in this test against Bangladesh. Now, he's grabbed a fantastic 5-wicket haul with figures of 5 for 37 in just 9 overs. And Bangladesh is battling to stay afloat, trailing by 438 runs with 137 for 8 at lunch. Mominul Haq is fighting on with 74, but it's a tough task as Rabada and the Proteas bowling attack continues to dominate. And I think with South Africa leading the series 1-0, it looks like another strong finish for our boys. Let's go to Banyana, who are in action today at the 2024 COSAFA Women's Championship. Their coach, Mort Khumalo, says they know what's at stake when they face off against Mozambique in the semi-finals this afternoon, 3 p.m. The hosts have already done one better than last year by getting out of the group, but now they'll need to go all the way. Khumalo says rotation within the group is key to ensure freshness amongst players.
The intensity of the game is sometimes it depends with how it is, but for us, the rest is more important, and then also we managed to rotate the players around, and I feel like that it's a good thing that we did so that everybody has a feel of the tournament, so that whenever we go to this encounter with Mozambique, we know everybody has a feel, there's no nerves, there's nothing. So for me, I feel like we're ready for the game.
Now, Mamelodi Sundowns coach Manqoba Ngiti reacting differently to his team's 3-0 victory over Cape Town City in the Betway Premiership. Despite the title holder's success at Loftus, he's praised his counterpart Eric Tinkler. On his side, bouncing back following the surprise 1-0 defeat away to Polokwane City 3 days earlier, he felt it was a polished performance to cut Orlando Pirates' lead at the Summit to 3 points.
We started the game very well. Good energy, good intensity, good ball speed, and I think our build-ups were very spot on, and we created good opportunities from most of those situations, and it was pleasing to see the team giving a reaction like this, because that's what we expected. In as much as we scored 3, and I'm happy with 3, but I still maintain that I think we could have scored more. And when I look at the chances that we got, I think we could have done even better. But nonetheless, one should appreciate the fact that from a defeat we've managed to win against what I believe is one of the best teams in the league.
And finally, rugby, Mzwandile Stick is pleased with the preparations during the pre-tour training camp in Jersey as the Springboks home. That's for their opener against Scotland. The Boks have 3 tests lined up next month against Scotland, England and Wales. They completed their first training block of the week yesterday, which comprised 4 training sessions over 2 days. They will have a rest day today before resuming their on-field preparations tomorrow. The squad will travel from Jersey to Edinburgh on Sunday for their opening test against Scotland at Murrayfield on the 10th of November, before moving on to London to face England on the 16th of November, before wrapping up the ongoing tour against Wales in Cardiff, Saturday the 23rd of November. That's how we wrap up sport. We'll have more here on SFM around 12:30 with John Hedeka. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
So, Ndauling, let's wrap up our business and economics coverage this morning by reflecting on the budget speech that was delivered yesterday. Talk to me about government facing fiscal challenges. This amid falling tax revenue.
That's right, Sulas. And the first budget under the GNU done and dusted. And as we digest that statement, it's clear that things aren't rosy, but things aren't too bad. Now, Treasury has projected rising budget deficits and higher debt levels as it deals with lower revenues. Collections have been under pressure, with government expecting tax collections for 2024-25 to come in over 22 billion rand lower than estimated in February. Now, this has led to a 5% budget deficit, higher than the initial 4.5% estimate. On the brighter side, the deficits are projected to decrease gradually to 4.3% in 2025-26, 3.6% in 2026-27, and 3.2% in 2027-28. Now, lower tax revenues are on the back of downbeat import VAT collections, lower fuel levy collections, and weaker personal income tax collections. However, higher than expected tax collections from the two-part retirement withdrawals, as well as improved wages in the second half of the year, could see this figure improve by the end of the financial year in February 2025. In terms of growth, Treasury has adopted a more cautious approach, revising the 2024 projection downward from 1.3% to 1.1%, aligning with the Reserve Bank's estimate. Despite this, the outlook for the future appears a bit more promising, with growth projected to reach 1.7% in both 2025-26 and 2026-27, and 1.9% in 2027-28. This translates to an average growth rate of 1.8% from 2025 to 2027, an increase from the 1.2% average of the previous 3 years. Now, the Finance Minister notes that more positive signs are emerging due to structural reforms and stable electricity supply. The Treasury emphasizes that faster growth will depend on the continued implementation of those reforms.
So this is one you were watching particularly closely. I remember you using this expression, whether there would be tough love for the SOEs. Was there?
There really was, and this was, of course, expected. Finance Minister deciding not to provide additional funding to struggling SOEs, including Transnet, Denel, and the Post Office. Godongwana explained that the government's tough love approach, as I said it yesterday, aims to reduce state expenditure, that bill already at high levels. The tough love approach is also in an attempt to promote private investment and public-private partnerships. Now, the SA Post Office, facing day zero of operations, had requested a 3.8 billion rand bailout for its business rescue plan, which includes paying off creditors, retrenchment packages, and infrastructure updates. However, Godongwana stated that there's no more money for SAPO, emphasizing the need for the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies to reprioritize its budget. Transnet, which received a 47 billion rand government guarantee, is expected to attract private sector involvement to improve their operations. And there's no more money for Denel as well. That SOE also in the process of implementing its turnaround plan to become sustainable. Treasury said it'll be working with Eskom to find debt relief solutions for municipalities as part of its 254 billion rand relief program. While Godongwana and his team tighten their purse strings when it comes to SOEs, they are prioritizing infrastructure investment to boost economic growth and job creation. The government has allocated a 940 billion rand for infrastructure spending across both public and private sectors, a move that's been welcomed by private sector bodies like the Minerals Council and Business Unity South Africa.
Lastly, Dowling, then ahead of the resumption of trade on the JSE, what kind of a day can we expect on the markets here at home and elsewhere in the world?
So sentiment has really been mixed, with traders not making any big bets on equities. And so local markets could be in for a sour start today. Not much local news as investors assess yesterday's midterm budget. On the currency front, the rand really range bound this morning, sitting at 17.68 to the dollar. Meanwhile, in Wall Street, futures slipping further into the red despite strong GDP figures and upbeat earnings from tech counters. Moving over to Asia, markets trading mixed there, except Chinese stocks, which are in the green following decent factory activity numbers that suggest that Beijing's stimulus measures are working.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ntauleng Lechela. She's been watching business, economics, and the markets for you throughout the morning here on The Morning Brief.
Time. When you're a kid, it moves slower than a sloth trying to get through airport security. There is just so much of it. Skip forward a few years to your 20s. Time is still your friend. It says have some balance. Go party and have fun. Then your 30s hit. And time suddenly steps on the accelerator like it's trying to catch a traffic light before it goes red. 40s. Now time is moving faster than your 10-year-old on a sugar high. 50. You're desperately trying to save as much as you can, but time is moving so fast. And all you can think is, where did all the time go? That's why after 50 years of investing, we've learned that time is the greatest gift of all. And the good news is, if you invest early, time gives you money, and then money gives you more time for some much-deserved you time. Now, isn't that a compelling enough reason to invest? Ellen Gray, long-term investing. Ellen Gray is an authorized FSP.
Hey, what's happening? This is Tato Immaculate, your absolute favorite cup of tea. Catch Back to the City on SABC 1, Mzansi. For sure.
For all the hip-hop heads, check out the Back to the City special, Saturday 9 November at 8 p.m. only on SABC 1.
SAFM. Prime time all day long.
16 minutes to 9. The leading advocate and activist for land restitution, Thembeka Ngcukaitobi, has weighed in on the phenomenon of would-be land beneficiaries opting for monetary compensation instead of getting the land back. Ngcukaitobi says beneficiaries are being given a false choice, as true agrarian reform would include giving them both the land and the support needed to work it, including financial support. I caught up with him, and this is how our conversation went.
It is a completely false choice. The minister is correct on that point, that you cannot make victims of dispossession to choose between getting their land or getting money. Most people, as far as I can know, because the consequences of dispossession is impoverishment. And when the impoverishment has reached desperate levels, a lot of people will choose money. But that is not to say they don't want the land. But it simply means that their immediate priority at that point is cash. And because we know from experience that after they have received the cash, they come back and join the RDP queue for houses. So which means that, in fact, if you want to create a land-based economy, what they usually refer to as an agrarian revolution, you should not be making people choose land or money. What they need is land and the ability to work the land. And often that requires resources, it requires access to markets, and then sometimes it requires cash grants. So for the last 30 years, I believe that choice has always been a false choice, and it is proven to be. I mean, in fact, the government usually touts these statistics that 90% of the land claims that have been settled have been cash settlements. And then they will mark it in their books as 100% success. But what they are not addressing is land injustice, which is the crisis that faces South Africa. Too few people have too much land. Too many people have no land. The real problem in land reform is not the settlement of all other claims. That is one of the problems that must be attended to. There's no doubt about it. The real problem is the absence of an overarching policy for redistribution of land. the government must pass a redistribution law. The ANC's conference of 2022 passed one of the resolutions that the government would facilitate the publication of a redistribution bill. Next time you see the Minister of Land Affairs, ask him how far is the redistribution bill.
Sure. How would that differ from restitution?
No, that's an excellent question. Restitution is a limited program that focuses on claims of people who lost either the land or rights in land from the 19th of June, 1913. We know the numbers. It's about 5.8 million people. Those we refer to as victims of forced removals, whether it was the Natives Land Act, or it was the Group Areas Act, or the Native Trust Amendment Act. There are many, many statutes, right? But those numbers have been calculated to be around 5.7 million. That is where that number of 5,800 comes from. But then you have a different problem, which was contained in a policy of the ANC called Ready to Govern, published in 1992, which is, what about those people that cannot prove that they were victims of forced removals, which constitute an overwhelming majority of Africans in South Africa? The ANC then thought, well, it is going to be very difficult to go back to the time of the arrival of Jan van Riebeeck. So those people would benefit under a wider land redistribution program. What they thought was that in the first 5 years of democracy, they would distribute about 30% of commercial farms from white farmers or white owners, even if they were not farmers, to black owners. And they did that based on a study published by the Land Bank, which showed that per annum, about 6% of farms were bought and sold in the open market. And so it's easy, it's 5 times 6, and that's how they got to 30%. They thought they could do 30%. But we know as a fact that they didn't in fact achieve 30%. By the end of that first 5 years of Mandela's government, it was less than 1%. In 2022, when President Ramaphosa gave his speech at the opening of the conference, he put the number at 11%. So it's been a dismal failure on their part. And which is why at the end of that conference, then they passed a resolution saying what we need is a redistribution bill. And the redistribution bill is not based on you proving that you were dispossessed. It is based on you proving that you need. So it's called equitable access.
Yeah.
It's based on need and ability. You need the land, maybe for occupation, for housing, or you need the farm, maybe for production. But you have to prove that you need it. In other words, you cannot afford using your own private resources.
Can that be achieved by accessing only state-owned land at the moment and using that for redistribution, or is that simply not possible without touching privately held land?
No, the only way you can ever do meaningful land reform is private land. It is by focusing specifically on privately held land. I'll give you the numbers briefly. South Africa consists of 123 million hectares. That's the total land surface that we have in this country. I know there's disputes with Lesotho and Namibia about the border areas, but forget about those for a moment. 123 million hectares is South African-owned land. Out of that, 18 million is owned by the state proper. Out of that, only 2% is actually capable of human occupation or human usages. The rest is simply not, whether it is forests or it is railway lines or it is other physical infrastructure that the government itself uses for other reasons. So what that means is that you can never meet the problem of land hunger and the problem of land injustice by focusing on state-owned land. It's actually a mischievous argument that the state can solve the problem of land injustice by redistributing existing state-owned land. The real issue is that people are afraid to talk about the true transformative demand, which is let us redistribute land that is privately held. And sure, I'm not advocating for a usurpation without compensation. I'm simply saying the amount that is required is too much. The government ought to be able to pay amounts that are completely divorced from the current market trends, because these market trends are themselves artificial trends.
Yeah, so that's just some of the interview that I had with Advocate Thembeka Ngcukaitobi weighing in on the state of land reform and that call that he is making for land redistribution as distinct from land, the restitution process, which is about restoring what was lost previously, but now emphasizing on equitable access, even for those who cannot prove that they were dispossessed historically, or their families at least.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still on the way to Pretoria on the N14, the Krugersdorp Highway. Crash between the R55 Pretoria West exit and the N1 Brockfontein interchange, causing that delay. William Mandela, a crash at Hurlingham, still backlogging traffic badly into Sandton. William Mandela, Peter Place, Republic Road. A heavy Nova spill onto Ballyclare, causing some delays coming off the traffic at William Mandela that side. There's also possibly lights out, Vickoppen and Malabongwe. Malabongwe at that junction, North Riding's quite heavily backed up. If you're Durban bound, coming out of Peter Maritzburg's looking still slow down towards New England Road. It's either a breakdown or an additional lane closure, but it's quite heavy on that Peter Maritzburg bypass heading to Durban. A breakdown before Spaghetti Junction, N2 South backlogging from Umgeda Road. And Cape Town still very heavy around Jan Smuts Drive, both ways into a very congested Clipfontein Road. If you're coming from sort of Epping or coming up from Athlone, Jan Smuts Drive worth avoiding if possible. It really is heavy. Marine Drive backlogs from Milnerton down towards the Lagoon Beach area. Bosmansdam Road still heavy through the N7 towards the Montague Drive junction, and the N2 outbound stays heavy. A broken down truck at Khayelitsha, one lane open before Spine Road. Big queues back through the R300. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said, "Grrr."
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed Dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, "Baye!"
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
The Natal Rich Boys and the Citizens are all searching for the semi-final spot. KZN is up against Western Cape. This is the quarterfinal of the Carling Knockout. Fagugesi. Catch the unmatched passion and drama of Ibola Lasemzansi, Richards Bay FC versus Cape Town City FC. This Saturday, 2 November at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone. Always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, let's let 100 flowers bloom and let 100 schools of thought contend. Let's talk now with the remaining minutes of this show. Let's speak to Keith in the Free State. Good morning to you, Keith. You wanted to talk to me about the issue of land this morning.
Good morning, Thulas, and good morning to your listeners. Thulas, I listened to your interview with the advocate, and I just want to bring one point.
Sure.
Just as much as land is a form of production, I'm an irrigation farmer. We need to understand that water goes hand in glove with the land, and water is also a resource that is so skewedly in white hands, if I may say. And as a result thereof, we that are in the irrigation space are not only battling to get hold of irrigable land, but also the water that would go with that land. And these are the changes we want to see government implementing in this space, where we talk about inclusive growth. We're talking about both access to irrigable land, and irrigable land is only available within catchment areas where the water is available. So we are saying, and that land is mostly in private hands.
Yeah.
You know, so we need to come up with a strategic plan as to how to get that transferred together with the water for black economic empowerment in this country. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. That's Keith in the Free State. They're talking about what else goes with, having access to the land, the resources that are needed. I think the conversation there with Thembeka Ngcukaitobi resonating with Keith in the Free State. On a theme of water, which is partly what Keith raised, access to water, let's listen to this voice note, which also wants to talk about the issue of water.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Good morning to the SAFM listeners. Thulasizwe, water crisis in South Africa is real. I understand that across 11 municipalities around Gauteng, level 1 has been implemented with immediate effect. This is a real problem that we need solutions for. I think we do have solutions at our disposals. What we need to do is just to implement them, to approve them and implement them. We need to take this serious. We can't have a problem of water supply. Sekwanele from Pretoria.
Thank you, Segwanele. There's absolutely nothing that I could add that would add any more to what you said there. The water crisis is real, and we need to be grappling with it and grappling with it better. Let's take a listen to one that has to do with the issue of food contamination, because in the last few days we've been corrected, right? We've been calling it food poisoning, but actually the experts are saying food poisoning is one thing. Food contamination, where chemicals get into the food value chain, that's where the issue is. Let's listen to this voice note now.
Morning, Thulas. Thank you for raising the issues of service delivery on a routine basis. You know, one of the problems that we have when we're looking at the poisoning of these children by contaminated food is that the root cause is actually inadequate or inefficient waste management. That's why we have to resort to these chemicals to deal with the rodents, the cockroaches, and all the other problems that arise. So we're not putting waste management on the service delivery menu. Thank you.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on, because a lot of the times when the analysis is done as to what these chemicals are being used for, it is to do pest control, and you linking it to waste management. I cannot quibble with that at all. Thank you for that contribution. Let's take a call from Fezile in the Free State. Fezile, good morning. You also want to talk about the issue of land?
Yes, Thulasizwe, I want to talk about land. You know what? I'm so heartbroken. I thought that the EFF will do something about this issue of land. But now it seems to me they've been fighting for the land for the sake of foreigners. It's like when they give you 6 hectares of land, they will tell you that no, take 2 hectares and give it to foreigners because they are our brothers and sisters.
No, man, Fezile. Is that an EFF policy? I've never heard of that policy. Let's separate 2 policies. Their policy on migration and their policy on land. I think the 2 can be separated.
Yeah, but you know what? If you listen to what, as much passionate they are about our brothers and sisters from Africa, it seems to me once they get the land and they have to give us the land, they will change their policy. I'm not saying that that is their policy right now, but the way they are, you listen to the utterances, you can see that these people will change. That is why right now I'm not even voting for them, you see. So I think this issue of land, even if you're going to get the land tomorrow, we are not going to be able to use it for our own benefit, you see. Like right now, farmers are selling the land, but they are only selling it to their own people, the white farmers I'm talking about, you see. So this is a question of land. I think our forefathers have been fighting for it. We are fighting for it. I don't think we're going to get it.
Sure. All right. On that note, let's end it there. That's Fezile in the Free State there. And that's how we come to the end of today's edition of the Morning Brief. Thank you for listening, and thanks to the team that put it all together for you this Thursday morning. The Talking Point is up next here on SAFM, but that's coming up after the news. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
Thanks to last the top stories. Alleged insurance claims killer cop is back in court today, and taxi drivers to march to the Joburg mayor's office. A very good morning to you. A Limpopo cop accused of killing 9 civilians for insurance claims amounting to 10 million rand is expected to continue to apply for bail in the Polokwane Magistrates Court. Sergeant Rachel Kutumela and her co-accused, her 27-year-old daughter and 47-year-old sister, have been charged with insurance-related fraud. She also faces 9 counts of murder. Pimani Baloi reports.
Kutumela is today expected to continue her testimony as part of her bail application. She has thus far confirmed knowing 4 of the 9 people that she stands accused of murdering. She has, however, denied killing them and fraudulently benefiting from their insurance policies. Investigating officer Keshima Bunda, who was instrumental in the 2021 conviction of another police officer, Rosemary Ndlovu, is expected to also testify as the state opposes bail.
Diamond dealer Louis Liebenberg, his wife Desiree, and 4 co-accused are expected to apply for bail when their case resumes in the Bronkhorstspruit Magistrates Court in Gauteng. They face charges of fraud, money laundering, theft, and racketeering. Phumzile Mlangeni reports.
Initially, 9 suspects were arrested in Gauteng and Northwest in connection with the multi-million rand diamond scam. However, 3 of the accused were granted bail ranging from 20 to 100,000 rand each during the accused first court appearance last Thursday. Liebenberg allegedly advertised unpolished diamonds on social media and invited potential investors to invest in his business with a promise of lucrative returns. Investors were allegedly scammed out of more than 4 billion rand. Phumzile Mlangeni, SABC News.
SARS Commissioner Edward Kisweta says the rate of withdrawals from the two-pot retirement system is higher than expected. He was speaking at Parliament in reaction to the Finance Minister's midterm budget policy statement yesterday.
The value of the total directives that we have approved amounts to just over 29 billion rand, and the taxes that will be levied against that will be about 7.2 billion. But none of that money is in the ministers in the September numbers yet. And also, because we are withholding debt that taxpayers owe to us, we expect a further 750 million rand of old debt will be collected through the two-pot. So I think so far it appears as if the withdrawal rate is higher than it was originally expected.
Operation Tudula, along with the Patriotic Alliance and the Ekasi Business Federation, are today expected to launch a coalition aimed at protecting the township economy. This move comes after a devastating incident in Naledi, Soweto, where 6 children lost their lives after consuming contaminated snacks from a tuck shop. The coalition says it seeks to safeguard local businesses and community health standards. Operation Tudula's Zandile Davula.
This multi-party organization is meant to make sure that we support our locals. We make sure that we at least eliminate foreign-owned spaza shops in our townships, because if you could remember, Operation Tudula for the past 4 years, we've been asking our government, can you intervene? But now, sadly, we keep losing children, and I know people would say, why do you keep blaming foreign nationals on the deaths of these kids? But it's always clear. If you go into their tuck shops, you can see the health standards are not on point. You can tell that they don't even follow the regulations. Some of them are even undocumented.
And members of the Top 6 Taxi Organization will march to the office of the Joburg Mayor in Braamfontein this morning. They say the mayor has failed to respond to their queries about payments. The organization says this is due to taxi owners who surrendered their minibus taxis and operating permits to make way for the Rea Vaya bus rapid transit system. They say the payments are overdue by over 8 years. The organization's members will gather at the Mary Fitzgerald Square in Newtown. The top story at 9 o'clock, a Limpopo cop accused of killing 9 civilians for insurance claims amounting to 10 million rand is expected to continue applying for bail in the Polokwane Magistrates Court. For SAFM News, Kimudupi Makhalemele.
Your older car also has needs. Outsurance Essential is specifically designed for the needs of older cars. With Outsurance Essential, you get up to 1 million rand liability cover. That means if you cause an accident, the other car you bumped into could be covered for up to 1 million rand. Enjoy this and loads more great benefits at a low price. Get saving with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rand. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's and information online.
Bahlabani Bantwa want to fight like real warriors to secure a semi-final spot. But Stellies believe they have a top-class plan to march to the last four. This is the quarterfinal of the Carlin Knockout. Catch the unmatched passion and drama of Thulasizwe Simelane, Marumo Gallants FC versus Stellenbosch FC this Sunday, 3 November at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Real savings, real benefits. Here's what real clients say about Outsurance.
My name is Alan. I'm 71 years of age and I live in Douglasdale. I'm paying 554 Rand a month for my 2022 Nissan Magnite.
Want a car insurance premium that'll blow your mind? SMS out to 30754 now for a quick quote. That's out to 30754. It's quick, it's easy, and it could save you hundreds of rands every month. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Our role must be to seek to build a better world.
SAFM invites you to our annual public lecture, delivered by former Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor. The theme for the lecture is 30 Years of South African Freedom, reimagining South Africa's democracy, achievements, challenges, and the road ahead in protecting our democratic gains. The lecture will take place on the 21st of November 2024 at the Birchwood Hotel and Conference Centre. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
Today, I'm part of seeking to build a better South Africa.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The Talking Point on SAFM. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
There are three periods in history during which the world has made remarkable progress, and at each and every time, Africa has been left behind. The first of these periods was the Renaissance, when people like Isaac Newton, Leonardo da Vinci, etc. came up with ideas that really transformed the world. The second was the Industrial Revolution, when the steam engine, electricity, etc. were invented. And now we're in the third age, the information age, where the PC, the internet, and mobile telephony have transformed our world. And each time, Africa has been left behind. A few years ago, President Mbeki of South Africa proclaimed the period of the African Renaissance. And so I wondered, what could we do this time to ensure that we were not left behind, that this time we too could actually achieve the promise of creating peace and prosperity in our continent. And so was born the idea for the African Leadership Academy. The Academy aspires to serve as an engine that can help to bring about this renaissance for Africa. See, one thing I realized was that each and every time that these tremendous changes occurred in the world, there was an explosion of individuals who had ideas, came up with ideas and implemented these ideas that led to tremendous change in the world. Let's call these individuals change agents. Now, Africa has a lot of these change agents already. We've seen and met several of them at TED over the last few days and heard about their ideas and what they're doing to implement them. So our goal at the Academy is to become more systematic and proactive about developing these change agents for Africa, so that we don't just leave it to chance, but really harness a group of people who are united by one common purpose, to bring about peace and prosperity in Africa. So 50 years from now, what do we hope to see? By then, we would have developed 6,000 change agents for Africa. Let's say 100 of these have become effective and ethical political leaders who are contributing to peace and stability on the continent. Another 100 have contributed to finding cures to some of Africa's most ailing health problems. 1,000 have become entrepreneurs and created millions of jobs. Others have become central bank governors, university presidents, teachers, doctors, etc. And maybe just a few have launched the Microsofts and the Googles of Africa, or have become the Thomas Edisons and the Thomas Jeffersons of Africa. And together, this group can work together to bring about this elusive African Renaissance.
Wow, very powerful. Fred Swenica is a Ghanaian serial entrepreneur and a leadership development expert, and he gives us our opening motivation for this Thursday, the 31st of October. With that, hi everybody, welcome to a rather chilly Thursday morning in Johannesburg. The talking point is with me today. I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi. I'm in for Kathy Mutlatlana this Thursday, the 31st of October. She'll be back tomorrow. We are SFM. We're leading the conversations that move you, and you can join in whenever you want to on 086 000 2032. That's 086 000 2032 on our telephone line, or on the SMS line 41391. That's 41391 at 150 to you. And the WhatsApp line 061 410 4107, 061 410 4107. We're on X. We are at SFM Radio, and please hashtag SFM Talking Point when you talk to us. So coming up on the program today, we open the lines for you to reflect to us what is on your mind between now and 10 o'clock in the open line, between now and 10 on those numbers that I just gave. And then after 10, it's the hashtag Municipal Watch. KwaZulu-Natal Amakosi are entering the municipal space because something different is coming out of KwaZulu-Natal, in that the province's Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs has reportedly issued a circular instructing municipalities across the province to table the inclusion of Amakosi in the agenda for upcoming council meetings. Reports in the media quote COGTA MEC Thulasizwe Simelane saying that the previous practice of council executive committees making decisions that impact areas under Amakosi without their input would no longer be allowed. He is going to talk to us, the Reverend Thulasizwe Simelane, who's the member of the Executive Council for the KwaZulu-Natal Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Department. That's between 10 and 11. After 11, unions are taking on yesterday's budget speech. We're going to use the hour to reflect on yesterday's medium-term budget through the eyes of trade unions. At the rate the cost of living is running on a daily basis, one wonders if there's really anything that workers are benefiting from the midterm budget that was given yesterday. One of the issues also on the table was talk of making the 370 Rand a month social grant permanent, or replacing it with a basic income grant. For some time now, it's been said that a permanent grant must be supported by higher revenue sources. Is our social grant system even sustainable, seeing how many people are being retrenched? We're going to be joined by the president of the Association of Mine Workers and Construction Union, AMCU, Joseph Matunjwa. Ashley Benjamin is from FEDUSA. He's the Deputy General Secretary there. And Mamed Disibe is the president of JIWUSA. So much month at the end of the money. Right? So much month at the end. So much month at the end of the money. We're at the end of the month, right? And for a lot of people, the money is already gone. 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 Did you see that Standard Bank report? I think it was posted by Wendy Nola, the consumer reporter, on Twitter. X, who says Standard Bank is saying that over 420,000 of the people who bank with them are left with 1,000 rands after everything is paid at the end of the month. That's everybody. In fact, somebody said, I think in one of the comment section, 1,000 is a lot. I'm left with a minus. People are struggling, right? I'm reading the tweet to you now as I see it. How much money do you have left in the current account the day before payday? Almost half of the salary earners are left with less than 1,000 rands or have a negative balance by payday, says Standard Bank. Oof. Yeah. What's on your mind? On my mind, of course, the budget yesterday, the midterm budget, I feel that a bigger priority has to be made around the issue of jobs. I feel like the job issue is an emergency, and I feel that it's an emergency that we should treat as an emergency because the number of unemployed people is unsustainable. It can't be that we have as many unemployed young people in South Africa, and I think it's an emergency. I think it's an emergency. I think the government has to treat it as the emergency that it is, as far as I'm concerned. That's the only thing on my mind. I want to hear what is on your mind on 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032, or 061 410 4107. We'll be back with your calls after break.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
What's going on, everybody? You want to catch the Psalmist? 2nd of November, 7:30 is all the red carpet action. We don't come through looking like that when the night arrives. 8 p.m. main show only on SABC 1. Yeah, get what's called in.
Celebrate 30 years of music with the Summer Awards, Saturday 2 November. Yellow carpet starts at 7:30 p.m. and the main awards at 8 p.m. on SABC 1.
Hi, I'm Andrew, and I was recently diagnosed with myelodysplastic syndrome. Patients like myself go through a long and strenuous journey to get a stem cell transplant. I am grateful for the support I've received as I wait for the call that my donor has been found. This Sunflower Month, be a lifeline to patients like myself by registering to become a stem cell donor. You can save a life by registering at dkmsafrica.org.
Hashtag SAFM Talking Point.
18 minutes past 9, 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032, 41391 if you're going to talk to us via SMS. That's 41391, or on WhatsApp 061 410 4107, 061 410 4107. Janusz in Cape Town. We start with you. You want to talk visa requirements. Hi, Janusz.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, KG. KG, I think it's a new Minister of the Home Affairs. I think he's doing a good job. Eventually, many other countries, they encouraged other people from other countries to settle in their countries and provide the services for them. In our country, in the last 10 years, we lost about 1 million of properly qualified, the best people who left. There's still many left, but we know the 1 million. Imagine if they will work here and contributed to our taxes, and only a lot of our taxes are also providing and giving the jobs to others. We could be much better situation. But unfortunately, ANC decided no, because of the race and other things. They cancel everything, make it all difficult for many people. That's why we left. We lost many of them. My son is in New Zealand, so I'm in pain for that. But, I think he's doing a good job because we need more qualified, not like ordinary workers, like electricians or plumbers. We've got these people. But if you have a head for sort of people on the top, they can bring back up money. We need the money.
Okay, we need the money, he says. Thanks, Janusz. Nhlanhla, hi.
Good morning, my sister, KG.
Hi, Nhlanhla, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for allowing me to exercise my constitutional rights. You see, my sister KG.
Yeah, go on.
Yes, I got you, my sister. On the issue of Tembeka Kangcuba Kayitobi, hey, that man, he deserves some pants. You see, the way he articulated the issue of land, hey, I would like to applaud him because he wasn't beating around the bush. He just quoted two clause 4 with Freedom Charter when he spoke about giving the land to the people without speaking about those people who are recognized by the ANC people with the intention of wanting to benefit from whatever is going to be paid to those 5,000 or 5 million people.
So you say that book is worth the read, hey?
Definitely, my sister, and also what he had also articulated on with Thulasizwe in interview.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, my sister, all the things that you have said, they're right. Because my sister, you see, the Jews, they've got paid everything by the Germans when Hitler invaded them and caused all the Holocaust and atrocities into their country.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they got paid and everything, and they got their land back. But when it comes to the Jews paying back the land they've stolen, it's an issue. They want to go around the bush and make excuses while do what was done to you all.
Yeah.
People and stay forward.
So you're saying there's double standards there?
Definitely. America, you see, Hitler was funded by the Americans to destroy the Jews. And then they get benefited. The same Americans are causing trouble all over the world, and then we must bow and say, America, you're doing right. Hey. Hey.
Okay, Nhlanhla. Okay, don't spoil the book. But I mean, thanks for your take. I wasn't listening to Thulasizwe, but thanks for your take on that interview with Thembeka Kayitobi. Magdalene in Bloemfontein, The Economy. Hi, Maggie.
Morning, KG.
Morning,
KG.
Maggie.
Hey, I'm very much worried that the minister is worried about the economy of Africa.
Which minister?
But the very same minister, you must listen to him when he said we need to revamp the African continent. You get it?
Minister Enoch Godongwana.
Yesterday.
Oh, okay. Minister of Finance, yeah?
Yesterday. KG, the point is that we are in Africa, as South Africans, but we never say charity begins at home.
Mm-hmm.
So we could have taken care of our own economy first and then be able to can take care of the whole continent. Right now, we are in South Africa. Will you be able to go to Lesotho and start your own business in the street? No. Sheba, you are going to reach us. No, you signed it. You are regulated. Once you get into the gate, you are regulated. How many days are you going to take? Where are you going? Immediately